Hello and welcome to episode 41 of the XboxEra podcast. I'm Sikamikanico, and today I'm joined by our usual co-hosts Shpeshal Ed and Figments, and a very special guest. It's Randall Thor.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Love the show. It's one of the podcasts I actually listen to every week. Well, not every week, but you know what I mean. Every 2 weeks.
It's good to have you, man.
But I'm finally, get excited to be on, talking to you, Sick, you, Cairo, and of course, the man with all the Elden Ring info, Mediocre Ed, my friend. How's it going?
Listen here, Tomato. All right? This isn't poker, okay? You don't just come in here and bully me with your stack, your followers, and just lean, all right?
Brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. I love that. Did you rehearse that speech, that moment?
Actually, I had a different variation of it where I was going to talk about how, Xbox is saving the best for last and stuff like that. And I decided to go with that variation of Elden Ring because I know it just torments him over and over.
Seriously.
Bad. Well, look,
it'll come down to one day Nick is going to say Elden Ring is not going to be at something, and then it's just
no. I've sworn off the game now.
Well, look, okay, let's get this out of the way. Let me get it out of my system. So, what did you guys think of the Elden Ring reveal?
Yeah.
There we go. Right, now we're done. It was there though, right? It was there as most anticipated game.
Was it? I didn't even watch that. I didn't see it.
It did. It won over God of War and Horizon. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Elden Ring fans, they're really.
It won over Halo Infinite too, I think. Wasn't Halo Infinite on that list?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But look, there's been a lot of really, frankly, great stuff to discuss this week. So, I mean, what have we been playing? Well, I think let's get that one out of the way because I can imagine there's probably one game that's at the top of most people's lists for a variety of reasons, some of them controversial. It's been in the news a lot, and that is obviously Cyberpunk 2077. Have anyone actually been playing it at all?
Not me.
Hilarious.
I loaded it up for a few minutes and decided I was going to wait for the next gen version.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I literally did the same thing. I booted it up. I walked around. I made my character. I watched the shocking performance of the game on, and it's not shocking on Series X to put it in a better way.
It's actually pretty great on Series X.
It's okay, but man, when you look at the PC version, you're like, yeah. I'll wait. So it's gone to the backlog burner. It's a single player game, I'm not going to miss out on anything. I don't care about the story, so it's not like I'm going to be sitting there going, "What about the story? My spoilers." Who cares?
I'm happy to wait for the proper next gen patch for that one.
Yeah. Have they given any indication when that patch is actually going to hit, or is it just
next year?
Early 2021.
2021.
Right?
They did release a hotfix today, though.
I
that
saw.
Released a couple days ago on PS4 and PC, and it finally released on Xbox today.
Oh, good.
I'm interested in seeing how that affects increases performance or the textures and stuff like that. But there's that. I don't know if you saw the article from Windows Central, but it was Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk shows why Halo Infinite shouldn't be on Xbox One, and they had counterpoint articles, which is interesting because you can make an argument Cyberpunk probably shouldn't have released on Xbox One and PS4, and it should have just been a next-gen game.
It really, really shows how poorly they paid attention to the base Xbox One and PS4 versions, to be honest.
And, well, this is the thing, right? There's a couple of points here to raise, right? So the game was heavily advertised using PC footage. No one saw this thing running. And even their developer streams when they did the Night City live wire, whatever it was called, they only showed the enhanced console footage and only unique segments. It was extended gameplay. And it was like, oh, okay, it looks all right. But man, there's a reason that they did not show you what it looks like on a base Xbox One or PS4, and that's because it was terrible.
And apparently all the reviews are very specific people, PC only.
Yep. That's the only code they gave out. We didn't get a code for it.
I got a review code 20 minutes before the game unlocked for Xbox.
Wow.
So,
Helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird scenario. Like, do you? I've seen people argue this. Do you guys feel that is false advertising to a degree to tell a consumer base of like, what is it, 150 million consoles across PS4, Xbox One? This is the game you'll play. I presume you guys have all seen the Jurassic Park meme.
They'll argue it's not false advertising because they've never stated what platform it's running on, only that it's running in engine. That's it. So, and from what I understand, it almost exactly looks like that on PC.
Yeah, it does look very, very pretty
on PC. So, you can claim false advertising for the console versions, but they never explicitly said this footage is from the console versions of the game.
No, I suppose not.
Yeah.
This is just a curious one, and I don't know if you guys saw the Jurassic Park.
Besides,
meme.
like, bull shots have been in the industry for ages, and they're never going away.
Forever.
Yeah. So
it is what it is.
I don't expect anyone to go after them for.
It's funny, you know. I was told back in April that it's probably going to be a 2021 game, and I mentioned it in the Discord a few times, and everyone's like, "Ha ha ha! It's coming out December 10. It's not getting delayed." And I'm like, looking at everything going on, maybe it really was a 2021 game that was just forced out the door, because that seems to be how it comes across. Like, this game needed more time.
Yeah,
like way more time.
But I mean, there's also that's the double-edged sword. Like, the employees of CD Projekt Red had to crunch so hard to get this game out the door.
The way it is right now.
The way it is right now. And I feel like even if it were to be pushed out to 2021, that crunch would not stop.
No,
it would continue. And even if the game is buggy and broken in a lot of ways, like, at least it's out now. And the crunch, while it probably hasn't gone away since they're now working towards getting the bug fixes and patches out and the next gen upgrade, at least it's almost over. You know, closer to being over instead of being delayed indefinitely. You know,
you saw
that Howard will be happy though that Cyberpunk's taking the mantle for all the
I've seen a lot of
bugginess.
I've seen a lot of memes about. There was one where it was a Simpsons one with CD Projekt Red's logo is over Homer's head, and Marge is like, "Todd, no!" And then Todd is right next to her and going like, "Wait, what?" And she's like, "Force of habit." Sorry.
Force of habit. Yeah.
The best one has been the Jurassic Park meme, which with it, "Welcome to Jurassic Park," and it shows the PC version in all its glory, and it switches to the guy playing the theme tune on the kazoo. As it switches to like PS4 footage, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. I love it. It cracks me up. It certainly looks to be. I mean, there's lots of reviewers gushing for it, and I actually found the review that personally spoke most to me, that aligned with my mindset, was probably Jeff Grubb's, because I suffer from serious open world fatigue. And you know, even now, I took 2 days off from Assassin's Creed, and then I look at it and I'm like, I just can't bring myself to load it back up. I was really in it as well, and now I'm just like, oh, the grind continues.
It is. It's like
I think the review I appreciated the most was Polygon's review, written by a woman named. Hold on, let me look that up. I don't know. I haven't seen her name around, but.
Didn't she get a lot of shit though? Didn't she get harassed like crazy?
Well, the first 6 paragraphs was all about the trans issues that the trans community had with Cyberpunk,
which needed to be talked about and discussed, especially since the marketing run up to the game, as well as several honestly baffling design decisions in the game itself that can be viewed as heavily transphobic. Like, there are certain sex scenes that are gated off with certain characters based on your genitalia.
Wow.
Which is really stupid. There's also the whole picking a high pitched or a low pitched voice gives you your pronouns instead of that being a separate toggle, which in the trans community, voice is a big issue for a lot of people. So that was absolutely ridiculous. Then the whole marketing thing of like, oh, picking your genitalia is somehow appeasing the trans community, and it's like, okay, but this is not what anyone asked for.
I actually, on that subject, I did our most disliked video ever, by the way, on those issues. I did a Cyberpunk video that came out on the XboxEra channel maybe 5-6 days ago. And I got the usual stuff that gets thrown at you when you talk about issues that, politics in video games, even though this isn't a politics thing. This is just people having the right to live the way they want to live their lives. And what strikes me as odd is I think that the marketing for this game did step too far in that direction, right? It was almost like sideshow mockery, which was just gross.
Yeah.
From what I've read and what I've seen and what I've played of the actual game, aside from the actual advert, and I wasn't aware, Figments, you made an example of certain coupling moments being gated off depending upon what gender you are. But I think the marketing and the game are two very, very different things, and that's not me making an excuse for the game, but I think that the tone of the game, and I said this much in my video, I said I think the game is probably going to be a lot softer in these items. And I would also argue, not that it's right or wrong, that it's still way above and beyond of the choices you get to make than most AAA games. Most AAA games, you're a girl or a boy. You don't get to pick and swap parts and all those sort of things. It deals with it in very black and white, standard gender, binary terms and all that. There's some attempt there, but it's just because of the marketing, it feels arguably a little bit worse than it would do if they hadn't done any of the marketing and had just hit the deck running as the game was.
That's what I think the Polygon review spoke to me a lot. I really, speaking of which, Polygon's reviews have been insanely, really incredible over the last couple of years. I think they dropped giving review scores to any games a while ago, so it's just focusing on just the reviewer's thoughts. There's no expectation of a score at the end. But I think the thing that spoke to me a lot with the Polygon article on the Polygon review on Cyberpunk, and let me just read the last paragraph because I thought it was very on point. Quote, and that humanity is a saving grace is this alluring yet uneven and deeply flawed game. I can't deny that Night City wowed me with its scale, its verticality, and its sense of history, but I wish I could see people like me on its streets as something more than objects. I wish that the game's politics were more radical. Yes, I know I shouldn't look to a colossal game that was itself produced under exploitative labor conditions to lead the charge of anti-capitalist liberation, but I wish the sparks of Johnny Silverhand's ideological rage got to burn brighter, that Cyberpunk 2077 felt more interested in envisioning new futures than in reminiscing over bygone glories. Neither its gameplay nor its narrative can imagine the bold possibilities that I find so central to the best of Cyberpunk. But what it does offer is visions of people trying to make do and get by in a world that's trying to eat them alive. And sometimes those people get by with a little help from their friends. It's not the revolution I hoped for, but it's something. And I think that's very, very poignant for a final reflection on the game as a whole.
I'm intrigued to play it in 2021 and see what I think. But
see what sort of shape it's in.
We all know that as an Xbox-focused podcast, and we may as well dive into the meat and potatoes. And Rand, I'm sure that you've been pumping out videos galore since the other night, and you've probably got a few more planned. We ate last night a little bit, didn't we? At Game Awards, we had some.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting night, especially after Mr. Aaron Greenberg told everybody dial expectations back, and they weren't going to.
Oh my god! Yeah. Aaron's been listening to me. Temper expectations.
Yeah.
But the thing it's like they revealed Perfect Dark, and they had gameplay for, Warhammer Dark Tides, and Vin Diesel's new game showed up, which is exclusive. And I know we'll get into the minutia of it, but they had a pretty good night. And I just wonder if they've realized maybe it's better to set people's expectations low and then jump over the bar instead of like coming out and being like the first Xbox Series X gameplay and then not really showing any, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, I hope that's a trend that continues because that's what Microsoft's been desperately needing in terms of the positioning aspect of their marketing. It is so stupid that every freaking like Microsoft event was tagged with the best thing on Xbox ever or the world premiere of this great new thing, and it's just like some dumb game that barely anyone would pay any attention to.
I feel in a way that sometimes podcasts like ours and in general, you know, sometimes we all feed into that, right? There is a very passionate community out there that just want to just play good games, and they have been without getting into fanboyism here, because I don't think that's what this is, right? There is a dedicated set of Xbox fans out there that have been told, I'd argue since 2017, wait, you know, just hold on, it's all coming, and it's just really, you know, the Series X is the first console under Phil's full leadership. As is the Series S, I guess. And you're finally starting to see the fruit dropping from the tree, right? And people are just hungry to actually, you know, there are the fanboys out there that I would argue are hungry to be like that to their other fanboys on the other side of the camp. But, you know, whatever, you guys go off and have your little moment over there. But fundamentally, people that play on Xbox that just want to finally get really stuck into some well-produced, you know, new worlds, new technologies, and actually play some good games. Not that we haven't been, but, you know, the narrative is already set, and I think it's that change of the narrative is causing a lot of this overhyping and turmoil, and arguably sometimes we feed into that because we're just as excited and we hear things and we relay them and so on.
Yeah,
so it's interesting.
I mean, it's hard not to get excited. Like, we love games, we love what this medium can produce. We've been invested in this medium most of our lives. Like, we're in a podcast talking about this freaking medium, you know? It's
with that really famous YouTuber guy who has 1 million gamer score, 2 million now.
2 million? No, not even anywhere close.
No? I swear you breached the 2 million.
No,
Did you calm it down after the first mil?
8? I stopped after I got the million, basically.
I was about to say, you've slowed down, 1.2.
I know. Well, I mean, you hit the 1 million. Like, what is it? What does anything after that really even matter at that point? 2 million, 3 million?
Didn't Microsoft give like the first guy to reach some gamer score number? I don't know if it was 1 million or if it was like 2 million or whatever. But the first guy to reach it got like Xbox Live Gold for the rest of his life or something.
Yeah.
Like a lifetime pass.
I used to do a podcast with him, Stallion83.
Stallion83.
Is that Stallion?
Gamer Score Popcast. Yeah, they gave him Xbox Live Gold for life.
Wow.
But yeah, not like they haven't given that to anybody else because of it. Like, I think I was the 5th person to hit 1 million at the time, and all I got was Phil Spencer inviting me to E3 to break it on stage during Inside Xbox.
That's cool.
So it's like that's it.
See, maybe that's why I was confused. I thought you were either first or second because of that.
No, I was 5th.
Okay.
So,
well, you know, just feed into the narrative.
Special.
You know,
I'm not
just
special
claim it
whatsoever.
first. That's what we all thought.
He's just
well,
mediocre.
let's see what they do when the first person reaches 2 million. You think they're going to give them a lifetime pass?
I think there's already someone.
I mean, there's already like 3 or 4 people.
Yeah.
Are there?
2 million.
Man.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Smirnoff is currently number 1, and he's on his way to 3.
Wow.
I mean, getting gamer score and achievements now is super easy because there's a lot of developers out there who have realized that that's a good market, so they can kind of make really cheap games, but then give you all the achievements in 10 minutes and release games every single. There's like 2 or 3 publishers who literally put out an easy achievement game every single week on the Xbox Marketplace. So it's ridiculously easy to get gamer score.
Have you played Fractured Minds?
Yeah, I played Fractured Minds. Yes.
Yeah. It's like 10. It's like 10 minutes. 10 minutes, and you've got 1,000.
What was the game on 360 that was really famous? Was it Legend of Korra? Was it
Avatar.
Anime game? Avatar. Thank you. Someone out there, some anime fan is going to be like, "You confused Legend of Korra for Avatar?" And start throwing
No, Avatar. It was
maybe
on sale. It's funny that that's not backwards compatible. I assume that's a licensing issue.
Probably. So yeah, I mean, let's get all the meat and potatoes out of the way. I know there's other stuff, and we'll talk about, particularly Halo Infinite and the high level update in a bit. But I wanted to do TGA first because I think that's probably the stuff that we saw there, and let's talk about the big one, right? Which is Perfect Dark. I don't know about anyone else, but I said to the Discord at I don't know 11:30 at night because I'm in the UK and that thing starts at midnight, and I was like, nah, I'm not staying up for this. It's just trailers. I was still kind of half watching it in bed on my phone. And man, like my wife was half asleep, and the Datadyne logo appeared, and I was like,
Yeah.
She was just like, what?
It's interesting. I went back and I watched some people's reactions that were streaming the Video Game Awards, and you'd be surprised how many people didn't know that was the Datadyne logo.
Oh, of
like
course.
as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is Perfect Dark because that's Datadyne.
Yeah.
But there's few and far between where people recognize that was Datadyne, because if you had played Perfect Dark and you knew that was the logo, well then you know what game they're about to reveal.
Yeah.
But everybody was like, "What is this?" You know, and so
it's kind of understandable because like Perfect Dark hasn't had an entry since the 360 launch, so and people have been born in the time between the release of that game and now. So like
this is what I'm saying. Like I went back and watched a couple of older episodes of ours yesterday, specifically because of Perfect Dark. And we've said it before. The beauty of Perfect Dark is we said it's the perfect IP to bring back because for all intents and purposes, for the majority of gamers out there, it's a new IP.
Yeah.
For most, like, I know it's not a new IP, Steve. I'm aware it's not a new IP. But when you're talking about the majority of gamers having never heard of Perfect Dark, it's effectively a new IP, but then you've still got the established fan base there that do know what Perfect Dark is. So
are now older and wiser and kind of want more mature experiences. So you can go after a reboot that's a bit more grown up than previous games.
It strikes a good balance, I think. Like it's just I don't know. It just sits in that nice little spot.
So let's talk about real quick. Let's talk about the discussions that were happening back in 2018 after God of War released. So is Perfect Dark going to be Xbox's God of War?
Well, look. Before we get into what it's going to be, right?
Because if it's not a copy of a Sony game, then what is it?
I think
it's not going to win awards.
I think it's going to actually be something far more interesting and adventurous, right? People love their narrative games, but I don't think that's what the initiative is looking to do. They're not looking to, ape and copy someone else. They're looking to forge their own path, which I admire, and I can't wait to see what they come up with.
Well, the camera angle's wrong already.
I'm really happy that. I'm surprisingly really happy that they announced the game was going to be first person before before we even know the story. We know it's a first person game.
Well,
and I kind of wish it was.
I was just baffled by the people on the Discord and Era and in other places like Twitter, of just all the people are like, okay, then this game is completely off my radar if it's not third person. And it's like, what? Are you that addicted to a specific camera angle? What are you doing?
Yeah, I wouldn't pay any attention to anyone that knee jerks like that at a trailer.
It reminds me of the people. It reminds me of the people who like refuse to play anything that's not first person because first person is the most immersive perspective. It's like, okay,
go get a VR headset.
That just limits their gaming palette.
I remember some of that when, if you recall, when Cyberpunk was announced that it was first person.
Yep.
A lot of people were upset that it wasn't third, and then it just went on to have 8 million pre-orders and be the biggest PC gaming launch of all time. So I don't really think people say that, but then they just buy the game anyways and play it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like that Modern Warfare 2 boycott page on Steam.
Yeah. Well, and look, I think there were a few subtle hints there. I'm sure eagle-eyed Perfect Dark fans and for the record. I disliked Perfect Dark Zero. Like, I don't really want to talk about.
Disliked it.
I don't want to talk about
everybody
Zero.
disliked it.
But the original,
I liked it at the time.
The original Perfect Dark, I played the crap out of that game. Like, I I had so much time in it, and I absolutely adored. And did anyone spot the gun?
The laptop gun?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I saw it, I was like,
yeah.
that's when I knew it was perfect dark.
Wasn't the huge building the Carrington Institute?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think so, because the Carrington Institute is the good guys, and that's who Joanna Dark is working for. That was the Datadyne building, right? So.
Oh, well,
that's
yeah,
the
it
bad
had the logo
guys,
on top.
technically. But here's where I wonder, and for those that haven't played Perfect Dark, we're going to be putting out a video article soon that me and a couple of the XboxEra crew are working on. But Perfect Dark is a weird, pulpy kind of game. So you've got an alien that loves Elvis and is named Elvis and wears jazzy waistcoats. It's like corporate espionage stumbles onto galactic alien war, and it kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's super, super cool, and it's great fun at the time. But there were several really, really unique things about Perfect Dark back in the day that, frankly, I don't think any other game has really attempted since. So you had, very much in the spirit of GoldenEye on the N64, you had, per difficulty level, it wasn't that the AI got tougher or had more health or blah, blah, blah. You were given more objectives, typically that didn't revolve around shooting, because you're a spy, like hacking the camera system or retrieving another set of data, or, all these sort of things that were more difficult to pull off the harder you went up. Which was really unique. You had another mode called Counter Ops, where a friend could play as just a random AI soldier on the campaign to come after you, which was super cool. And then you had this amazing multiplayer with bots on the N64. And every gun had a secondary function. There was just so much cool about that game. And when they showed off the trailer and they had all the different kind of hints, and I think this is where some of the rumours come, where people have said, including us, it's Perfect Dark, but not really. If I was someone, before last night's trailer, if someone was to say to me Perfect Dark, I'd be like, dystopian, cyberpunky type sci-fi. Perfect Dark, but not really. Yeah, we've gone into this kind of eco... It is dystopian, but we found a way through it, and everything is kind of okay, but it's not underneath the surface. That's super interesting to me. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Well, there was always and I talked to Nick about this. There was always two rumors floating around about Perfect Dark for a long time. One, that it was a full-on reboot of the franchise, which looks like it ends up being that one. But the other rumor was always kind of a little bit more out there, which it was seasonal or an episodic game, which, they wrote an article about the other day about Nick, and made the rounds, remember?
Yeah.
But that it was Perfect Dark, but not Perfect Dark, but in the universe of Perfect Dark, may not be Joanna, and that it might be multi-Xbox IP, where first season was Perfect Dark, second season was something else. So there was always those two
where I
groups.
was referring to Black Mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, basically... I don't know, whether, because sometimes with the insider game, quote unquote, it's like a game of telephone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Things get relayed wrong because you're hearing from a person that heard from somebody that heard from something, and it's usually always generalities and kind of just it's not very specific stuff. So things get lost in translation, and I always kind of felt maybe that was the original pitch, the multi-IP seasonal thing, like an early concept that eventually got dropped, and it was just, here's Perfect Dark, the reboot, which I am very happy about, because you know what? We don't get stealth action anymore, really.
Nope.
Ubisoft has abandoned Splinter Cell. Hitman's great, but they're about to be done with, that franchise.
Yeah.
They're going to move on to 007. So if I want my stealth action, then I got to go to Microsoft, and I'm happy that Joanna's returning. That I'm kind of interested in seeing how they're going to separate themselves from Splinter Cell and Hitman, and what type of game is going to be. How long is it going to be? Are you going to go globe trotting? Is it set in Egypt the entire time? Does it have multiplayer? Is a different team? Rumors said the Coalition was working on the multiplayer to go alongside of it. There's even though we know what it is, and we kind of know it's first person, it's blockbusters, what do they say, blockbuster stealth action or whatever.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of unanswered questions about the title. But at least we know for sure that it's coming. The initiative's working on it. It's Perfect Dark. It's a reboot. And I will say that this is how you do a reveal trailer. Like, I wasn't expecting gameplay. Like, when you compare this to something like the Fable trailer, like this reveal trailer was a million times better than the Fable one. I thought the Fable one was too short.
Yeah.
It didn't really show anything interesting. But then again, I guess you don't have that central character that kind of defines Fable like Joanna Dark defines Perfect Dark.
Yeah, the world of Fable, and that's kind of what they focused on for their trailer, right? It was Albion's
But they
back.
didn't, like, I wanted them to kind of like go into that city of Fable and kind of go around and see some of the people instead of being like, here's a frog eating a ferret, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they just did the Perfect Dark reveal was so much better. Like, it just built up that moment where she's standing in her pose with the gun, and you know it's her, and then he says Agent Dark, and you're like, what? Is it really back? And then, Perfect Dark. It was such a great trailer.
What gets me, though, is just the random people who came out of the woodworks to say, oh, well, it's not a gameplay trailer, so it's garbage. I don't like this.
Well, this is the funny thing. Like, we actually did a prediction video, and I said, don't expect gameplay, expect. And this is effectively the initiative saying, now you know what we're working on, come and join us to help build it. It was a recruitment campaign as much as it is an acknowledgement to fans to say this is what's coming down the pipe. It's the same for Fable. You know, although Fable was kind of like the worst kept secret in the world, this was them saying, this is what we're working on. Now we don't have to be like super NDA'd to the guilds to hire people. We can actually just, you want to come work on Perfect Dark and, you know, drive the genre of stealth first person action forward. Yeah,
I mean,
cool.
Perfect Dark was also an open secret too, to be fair. Like, again, when I went back and watched those old episodes, it was almost exactly a year ago that we teased it.
Yeah.
As Perfect Dark. I don't know if you remember the episode where someone mentioned it and then I made a face and you two were both questioning me going, why the hell are you making that face? And it was literally only a week or so before that I was in a DM where someone was basically saying but not saying that Perfect Dark's coming back. Yeah. And by the way, I'm glad we've got Rand on the show because I've given Rand the receipts and the stuff that's being said about me is a little bit wrong.
But to be fair, you also got to mention there are no names in the receipts. You black those out, so I don't know.
Of course I'm going to black them out. Yeah. I can't show.
But I can confirm that Nick has the goods. So like just not the goods on Elden Ring.
That's right, just not Elden Ring.
I just don't get why people. I just don't get why people still expect in this day and age to have a gameplay trailer of a title that's like years away from completion, like at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, what's the guess here, guys? Are we thinking 2023, right?
2023.
Minimum 2022. That's the earliest you can expect it.
Yeah. I would, if it's 2022, it's probably late 2022, late November, early December kind of game.
Well, but, I'm just saying, like, it's definitely not next year.
No,
you know, and if it does come out, it'd be late 20. I mean, that's kind of the whole what Sick kind of mentioned, like the wait for, as most Xbox games are essentially 2022 and beyond, you know. So
it's frustrating, isn't it? I mean, let's be honest. As I'm sure the fan base, the people that watch this podcast, the people that watch you, Rand, there is this sense that we're still waiting, you know. Like, but then you look at last year, I say last year, this year. I'm sitting there thinking it's 2021 already. I'm wishing it was. God, Microsoft had probably their best year in a decade.
Yeah, in terms of how much they put out.
How much quality stuff they put out. It's not just how many games they release, but a lot of them, Flight Sim, Ori in particular, were really, really good games. Yeah, and that's the thing. They're not the genres that I value. Yeah, well, okay. The gaming's for a lot more people than just you, Mr. I want my specific game. But you can feel the tide turning, I guess, is my feeling. But yeah, it is getting a little tiring. And the doom and gloomers do come up. Oh, you know, they botched the launch.
Well, at least by all accounts, it looks like we're going to get Halo Infinite next year. So let's hope that delay isn't preempting another delay.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. At this point.
You never know. I mean, fall 2021 is just a hop, skip, and a jump to early 2022.
That's true.
Yeah, but it was good. It was good at the Game Awards to see Flight Sim finally confirmed.
Yes.
For consoles.
Yep.
And I was shocked at how, assuming that actually was Series X footage, I was shocked at how good that actually looked.
Yep.
Next gen only too. No Xbox One version.
Yeah, I wasn't
Good.
expecting an Xbox One version for that game.
An Xbox One would cry in pain.
But but here's the
game.
thing. People are going to bring up Matt Booty and Phil Spencer's quotes from when they said they don't want to leave anybody behind, and that for a couple years, anything from their first party, which typically, I mean, even though Asobo isn't owned yet,
It's a first party
I think
published game.
Microsoft needs to. If they consider it a first party, and that game's coming out in the time frame where they said all the games would be cross-gen. So some people will give them a little gruff for that. But speaking of the Game Awards, is anybody else really disappointed that Ori didn't win anything?
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
best art direction? Are you kidding me? Are you
I was
kidding
really
me?
surprised at how. Yeah.
That's how your award show gets a reputation, man. That's
Like
how it
Ghost of
happens.
Tsushima is a beautiful looking game. Don't get me wrong, and that would have been my second pick. But Ori is literally a painting. Like, how does it not win best art direction? I mean,
Because
I would have given it the score as
Last
well.
of Us Part 2, obviously.
Well, no, I mean Ghost. But
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
and it's just I wanted Ori to win something, and I feel like if they had just released that game in a better state when reviewers got their hands on it, it would have had a higher Metacritic, and maybe there was a chance that it could have kind of slotted into the indie pick, like Hades, and would have been Ori. I feel like it got robbed essentially.
Yeah.
It's disappointing.
Even just as best art direction, like I would argue best soundtrack. Like the music for Ori and the Will of the Wisps, just like the original Ori, was frankly amazing. Like absolutely superb, start to finish. Like every track was just absolutely brilliant.
Gareth Coker is amazing. I mean, Final Fantasy VII Remake 1, I think more on nostalgia.
Yeah.
Like when you hear those tunes from you remember from it gets you a little emotional, it gets you nostalgic, which I guess Ori doesn't have any of that going for it. This nostalgia feeling, but I wanted Ori to win. Those words.
I mean, it's cool that it got nominated, but Flight Sim won best sim, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go, Microsoft.
Yeah. That was expected. And we got Mass Effect, and it's funny, Mass Effect Remastered has been rumored for so long.
That's
and
what I was expecting.
Mass Effect 4. That was I'm not even a Mass Effect fan.
Is it really Mass Effect 4 though? Because it just said Mass Effect to be continued or something.
Or
Mass Effect continues. Will continue. Yeah.
But it looks like
a Marvel style end credits tease for the next movie.
But it looked like that game was almost in right after Mass Effect 3 with Liara, right?
Yeah.
Are they actually continuing that plot thread?
And that's why I just sort of said 4. Like, maybe they're just going to forget Andromeda exists and just go straight to 4.
Well, Andromeda was.
You think people are going to start asking BioWare to allow them to use their previous game state from Mass Effect 3 and import that into Mass Effect 4?
I wouldn't be surprised if they allow
finally
you to
get a divorce.
I wouldn't be surprised if they allow you to, like they did because when Mass Effect 2 came out on PS3, because I think Mass Effect 1 hadn't yet released. I can't remember the scenarios, but you got to pick a bunch of choices to help inform the decision. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did something to say like who lived at the end of your Mass Effect 3 save and who hadn't, and you can kind of start the game and continue the story.
Okay.
But
counterpoint.
Yeah.
Mass Effect 3 is backwards compatible.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe that's only the save file import for Xbox versions.
For Xbox versions that makes sense, but I don't think they're going to be going back to what is now what will likely be a 10 or 11-year-old save file format just to extract your choices.
There's ways around
that. That seems like such a needless amount of over-engineering for very little payoff.
Well, couldn't they extract your choices from the remaster when it comes out early next year?
Yeah, they could do that.
Maybe.
Like you start it up and you just I guess you would make new choices in it because you'd have to replay it or whatever. But
I would actually replay all of them. I loved Mass Effect. It's definitely one of my
I still love
favorite
it.
But do you really love Mass Effect 1's combat? Do you wish it got reworked?
Okay, yeah. Well, I've heard that it has been reworked to bring it up to par with the rest of the trilogy, right? But like, everyone that hated Mass Effect 3, do you remember the uproar at Mass Effect 3, the ending, right? And saying that it ruined everything. I'm like, it's about the journey, man, not the destination. Like, damn, like I had the best like experience throughout those series of games. The last 10 minutes isn't going to make me go and throw my desk up. I was like, oh, you've reduced it to a color choice. But
you'd think like looking back on it now that the world has experienced the failure of Game of Thrones HBO, that Mass Effect 3's ending was like the first kind of Game of Thrones-esque thing where it basically just killed your dog and stole your house keys or something, with how poorly people reacted to it.
I always, and I'm gonna spoil Mass Effect here, so
it's fine.
sorry for anybody who hasn't played it, but the game's old, right?
Yeah.
I always felt you like when fan theories end up turning out to be better than what the original creators have. Like, okay, so Mass Effect 3 ended up down, hey, are you a blue or green or red choice, right? But then the fan theory that Shepard was indoctrinated for the entirety of Mass Effect 3, and that was the ending, was so much better than the ending they actually came up with that I wish it was the real one. You guys know what I'm talking about, the indoctrinated one.
Yeah, where
like, and it makes so much sense.
It
too.
Does.
Like, what a missed opportunity.
But that's the thing. I find writers for video games are in a precarious position, right? And like you've seen it over the years. Like the biggest example of the whole thing being thrown out for me was the original Destiny, right? Where you saw Joe Staten leave Bungie over it, arguably, because it worked its nuts off on a narrative, and then, well, sorry, we got to chuck it all out because we haven't been able to develop the game in the way that suits the narrative now. They have to kind of come up with these threads and bones, but then depending upon how the game is 2 years down the line, lots of it gets cut and chopped and changed and thrown out. And I think the fact that the Mass Effects survived all the way up until that point, like trying to tie in every thread, I wouldn't have envied that task at all. And it's a shame.
At some level, though, you gotta say, like, you gotta tell the writers, you kind of just created this problem for yourselves. It's a good problem to have. There's a lot of variation, but you made it worse for yourselves by doing this, and they know it. I'm pretty sure they know it. So, how you were saying something about Mass Effect Andromeda before I cut you off, John. What was that?
Well, we were arguing about the sequel, and I actually had this same argument with a friend of mine today, funnily enough, because I said, dude, because he, much like he and I, our other brother was Garrus, right? But we were talking about it. He was like, well, we've already done Mass Effect 4. I was like, nah, Andromeda is set at the same time as like the first one or the second one or something. He was like, no, it's not. And we went back and forth and quickly Googling it, trying to out-Google each other. And I was like, see, I told you. So it's kind of like, I was going to say it's kind of like a prequel, but it's not. It's set off during Shepard's timeline, right? But semantics. We're arguing and being serious.
Do you think Andromeda will have some play in the next Mass Effect? Or do we think that EA is just going to say Andromeda is a different galaxy? It has nothing here.
Doesn't exist.
Yeah, they won't.
It's going to be BioWare's apology to the fans, essentially.
Yeah,
doesn't exist.
But do we think that today's BioWare can do that? Genuine question.
Well, Casey Hudson left for a reason, didn't he?
Right.
Yeah. After just coming back, didn't he only just come back not that long ago?
Like 3 years ago, I think he joined. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So he was there, then he left, went to Microsoft, where he was working on HoloLens, I think. Wasn't he?
Yep. It's like VR HoloLens, yeah.
I think so.
And then left Microsoft and went back, or did he go somewhere else before going back?
No, he went right back to BioWare.
He did, okay.
Yeah, can I ask a question? Because thinking about Mass Effect has got me thinking about, like, remember the 360 era, you would not only get the game, you would also get 2 sequels. So you had Mass Effect 1 and 2 and 3 during that time frame.
Yeah.
Uncharted 1, 2, and 3 in that time frame. Gears 1, 2, 3, and Judgment in that time frame. In one generation, you'd have so many sequels.
Yep.
Now we're lucky if we get one game for one generation. Does that bother you guys any to an extent? Are you happy with
is the GTA problem of PS3 had three GTAs and GTA 5 had three different generations or something?
No, you're thinking of PS2.
Was it?
PS2 had 3 GTAs, and then the PS3 and 360 had 1.
Oh no, I'm misnumbered.
Oh, actually no, they had 2 as well, technically.
Yeah.
I think
it's just something I thought of about how the 360 gen, it was like you had sequels every 2 years essentially to games that were big, and now you're lucky to get the one game and then maybe a sequel at the beginning of the next generation. It's all slowed down.
I think in a lot of ways, like the 360 generation with the rapid pace of new titles coming out and new sequels coming out was just a holdover from previous generations where game making was so much faster because there was a lot less going on. Xbox One and PS4 generation really put the brakes on a little bit because the games started getting way more complicated, took a lot longer to actually finish, and had a lot more staff on board with millions of different opinions at every single point in time that all had to be contended with. And so I think we're approaching... I'm hoping it's still unstable. It's still a very unstable game creation industry, considering we still have to go through periods of crunch to get things out the door for not having a marginally broken game. And even then, some games just release fundamentally broken, despite having such long turnover. So I think we're just approaching a new normal. To be honest.
I'm of the opinion that there's 2 problems here, and I've spoken about this on previous episodes. And one is, I think in that cadence, where it was every 2 years you got the next trilogy, it was good for people that love to continue the story and loved the gameplay, right? But I think there's also a certain amount of fatigue that comes with that. I'm still stunned that Call of Duty hasn't just completely fallen over yet, because it's just so the same thing again and again and again.
Well, Call of Duty, to be clear, Call of Duty hasn't fallen over because Activision keeps pumping money into it to make sure its old legs can still carry it to the door.
You've seen something different happen with this release, right? One, the pandemic has obviously affected how it was developed, but 2, Warzone has kind of eaten its lunch, and this is when I mentioned I'd spoken about this on previous games. There are too many games now that vie to be the only game. And there is a genuine concern and this is semi why I love Game Pass as much as I do, beyond the arguments that it's obviously such a value-driven service for me, a consumer. I don't care about who gets paid, right? Sorry, developers. I benefit from this. I like it. But it allows for me to just nip in and play very short, different experiences. There's still room for those big AAA things, but more and more you find these games trying to be the only game you play. Fortnite, Minecraft. We want to be a platform. We're seeing it now with Halo. I'm presuming the new Forza Motorsport is going to be a platform for the next life of the console decade, whatever you want to call it. Now, my concern is if every game is a platform, you can't play them all, right? Especially the ones where it's competitively driven. If you don't keep up, then you fall to the wayside and you're not good at it. There's this element of so I don't think it worries me in that games are going to come out less from a narrative perspective. I think that the longer you get to wait, hopefully the better the product is, and the more polished, and the more interesting, and the more risks they can take. But I just feel like games nowadays, for the majority, they're just trying to be the only thing you play, and by doing that, you're going to see more failures. You're going to see more studios close down because they're attempting to be this thing that can't frankly compete to the other big thing. Nothing is going to beat Fortnite for a while, but there will be one that comes, and then suddenly people are like, oh, now my time's got to be split between this and this, and it's I don't know, there's too many like that.
On the risk thing, I'm kind of like the opposite of you, John. I think the longer a game has to create, the less risks are taken, because the more money, the longer a game takes to make, the more money gets dumped into it, and the more concerns are raised that we're not going to be able to make the money back on this. So, like, I know some people are going to claim I'm just being an arrogant fanboy or an ignorant fanboy about this, but God of War 2018 wasn't a risky game.
No,
granted, it was
extremely
risky
well put together.
Yeah, it was extremely well put together, but it wasn't risky. And there are people out there that think, Sony Santa Monica took a risk by taking God of War and turning it into this kind of game. But it's like, it's not that much of a risk. It's a formula that's proven to work for Sony. They had a lot of help from outside studios getting that look and feel just right, who had experience with those kinds of games. Like, maybe taking God of War in that direction was a risk, but the game they were making fundamentally wasn't risky. It was very safe for Sony to do. So I think Uncharted 4 was also a very safe game. Last of Us 2 did a lot of things narratively, but by the gameplay itself, did it take any risks? Not really. It was a game Naughty Dog had made before, you know?
Well, that's where the industry is going to be interesting, right? Because we're going to see, I think we're going to see a resurgence of smaller indie developers and smaller teams doing things. I long for the day where a game is 8 hours long and is really cool for 8 hours and then it's done. Yes, please. More of those.
Ghost Runner was like that recently for a few of my friends.
It's on my wish list. I really want to play Ghost Runner.
I haven't played it personally, but from everything I've heard of Ghost Runner, it is phenomenal, and it is a very nicely contained experience for what it is. So,
what about you, Nick?
But I mean, yeah.
What's your take?
I'm a narrative guy. I kind of miss the days where you could expect like sequels to games in one generation. So, like, when you get, like, a cool game, trying to think of one off the top of my head, like, where it's like, okay, let's just say God of War comes out, and it's like, well, I'm not going to be getting another God of War until next gen. And then, Ragnarok's going to come out, I know they say next year, but I don't believe it, say 2022. Let's say 2022. I'm going to play that, and it most likely will lead into another game, but that game probably won't be out until around the PS6 launch. I don't know, maybe because I consider 360 one of the best gens for me personally, because it was like Dead Space 1, Dead Space 2, you had
so many trilogies.
You had the Mass Effect games, you had the Assassin's Creed games before they were kind of, recycled, but like there was always something to look forward to. Like I know your point, like every game wants it to be the game for you. Like, this is the only game you play, and a lot of developers are chasing that, like Apex Legends and Warzone and Fortnite and
Warframe,
Halo Infinite upcoming, and all these games as a platform, and they kind of get exhausting, because at one point I was really into Warzone and I played it for 200 hours, but I haven't since. But if I go back, it's like, well, I'm not going to have my guns, or the meta's changed completely, and I don't have the gun that's really good now, updated and all that stuff, and like you play it and then you get destroyed and it's not fun and you don't play it, so you just get further behind. So I kind of just long for the days where the games came out on a more steady pace and you didn't have to, like, if there's a new Mass Effect game like the one we're just talking about here, great, say that comes out in 2024 and it's great, but it's like, okay, the sequel is going to come out 5 years, 6 years later. Like, I don't know. I kind of just wish it. And I know the reasons why, like you guys mentioned, development's more complex, 360. Yeah, like now they're trying to do 4K, textures and all that stuff. And I get it. But like, there was just something nice about the 360 gen where if it was a franchise that you liked, you would get a sequel really soon instead of like 5 or 6 years later or not at all,
Yeah. It felt a little bit like it was the last games console that was seriously just plug and play. Like, now we've got to wait for things to install. It's all digital. everything is...
That changed towards the end, though.
It did, but even then, you could still put a disc in, and it was only like the last year or two that had the hang on, you've got to install this second disc.
You got to install the disc.
I mean, technically, the last console that's plug and play right now is
the Switch. Yeah. Fair point.
And honestly, like the Switch the Switch does it without sacrificing loading times, without sacrificing asset streaming, because they all use those little flash cards to do it.
Yeah.
And it's just, I kind of wish the big boy consoles would do that too, and just ditch the disc slot and go back to flash cartridges. That'd be swell. But that's not going to happen because flash cartridges are expensive as hell.
Yeah, they'll never do it. Never, ever, ever.
It's not going to happen. The games are too big.
Yeah.
But
it's not going to happen.
I think I want to clarify what I said a little bit earlier. Was like, it's game development is more complicated, but I feel like it's largely just a problem that's self-inflicted. These studios want every game to feel new and fresh and exciting, but to do that, you have to pull off a lot of work with new assets, new texture designs, redoing lighting engines, updating how things stream in and out of the game world, all this other stuff. And while I don't want to say a lot of it was like games were very cookie cutter in the 360 generation, which they weren't, but they relied more on, at least from my perspective, they relied more on building out a single engine that can span a few good years.
Yeah.
And then layering on top what they needed to at the time, but what they needed to have at the time wasn't really all that complicated to just add to the engine and get it done with. Now it's like every game is coming out with revolutionary changes to their engine, with brand new assets, with new models for a rock on the side of a road. It's like, is this work all really necessary to create a good game? Not really at all. But because players demand such things, such quality out of their single player and multiplayer games, it takes longer to get to that level. And the studios have justified it by saying, look, if we revamp essentially our entire tool stack for this next game, and then for the next game after that, and then for the next game after that, it'll take longer to make those games, but those games will look better, sound better, and players will buy them more. And it's just, I feel like a lot of that is self-inflicted. Like, it doesn't have to, people will buy the dang game. It doesn't have to look like groundbreaking technology every time,
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's a good question, Rand, and maybe I'm sure folks will in the YouTube comments give us your thoughts on what did you prefer? Did you prefer having a trilogy one and done in one generation and then that's it, or do you like this drawn out marketing cycle of continuous hype? But just quickly before we dive into some of the other news. Game Awards, just flipping back to that, obviously lots of other things were shown. Any particular highlights of, pick your top two new things or things that maybe not new, but that you saw a little bit more of. And I'll start with you, Nick.
Outside of Perfect Dark, for me, it was Ghosts and Goblins, but most people didn't care about that.
The new Nintendo exclusive?
Yeah. I love Ghosts and Goblins. I got it on PSP, got it on, Super Nintendo back in the day, Mega Drive. I don't know, I'm realizing more and more how much I buy into Capcom stuff. Ghosts and Goblins looks great. That was my biggest one.
What about you, Rand?
Outside Perfect Dark.
The one that stands out to me outside of Perfect Dark was the Callisto Protocol. The sci-fi game that resembles Dead Space. Like when the guy was walking, the prisoner was walking, and he had the green bar in the back of his thing.
Yep.
It gave me flashbacks to the suit in Dead Space, and it's made by Glenn Schofield. It's his studio. Set in the PUBG universe. Like, I'm a sucker for sci-fi and that stuff. So like, yeah.
I knew it was, but I was like, why is this in the PUBG universe? Or the PUBG, that's how we say it around here, by the way, it's PUBG.
No, we're not saying it PUBG. Just stop talking.
So that game really stood out for me, and I guess the game that stood out for me for the wrong reasons, I guess as you could tie it into what Xbox announced, was when Vin Diesel showed up in Arc 2, which I was like, man, they're doing an Arc 2? I thought it would be like a Minecraft game. And then we find out later that night that it's exclusive to PC and Xbox Series consoles.
Yeah. Well,
do we even know what kind of game that is?
It's going to be the same thing.
I'm just going to be the same as Arc.
Yeah.
I would imagine. With
so
Vin
it's not
Diesel.
Going to be like a narrative thing? Because to me, that trailer tried to frame it like it was a narrative-driven game.
If it gets a narrative, it's because Microsoft footed the bill for it. Like, I'm going to say same thing that's happening with Crossfire X. If Arc 2 gets a story mode, then it's probably because Microsoft is funding it.
I just assumed, based off the fact that they got Vin Diesel and just the style of the trailer, I just assumed that it has a narrative mode, like a story.
I still don't get why they went for Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel only knows how to play one character, and it's Vin Diesel.
Yeah, he's just
Vin Diesel with different names, but Vin Diesel.
But it's because he's always been big into video games, though.
Yeah.
Like he basically start Starbreeze.
He was
studio
heavily,
didn't-
and let's be honest. I mean, what a great small segue. How good was Chronicles of Riddick on the original Xbox?
Yeah.
Like
One of the best.
Damn, instant cult classic. That game was,
And he was heavily
awesome.
involved in that.
He was.
Not just as an in-game character. I mean, in the development of it. Like he was involved.
Such a good game.
Like, yeah.
But
yeah, the Arc thing was a bit weird. I just worked under the assumption that it wasn't going to be like the first Arc. I thought it was just going to be a story-driven game.
it was a
But
terribly,
again, just purely based on the trailer.
yeah. The trailer was terribly animated. Like, I can't be alone in thinking that. It just looked really. It looked like a bad Saturday morning cartoon.
What was the other game that had the worst frame rate you've ever seen? It was like Crimson Desert or something like that.
Oh yeah. Is that a Black Desert add-on?
I think so.
Sequel?
Or like but I was watching it and I'm like, it looks cool, but hey, those 10 frames per second, huh? Like,
Ooh, boy. Did you guys see the tweet that I put up on the XboxEra account where a friend of mine did the hilarious on the red carpet interview with Vin Diesel? I'm going to risk this on the mic, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to go in and edit it out. But this was he took an animation, he took like an app on the phone and put Vin Diesel's face, because we were talking about the trailer and me amongst the friends. So I have to shout out Monkey Cop on Twitter for this, and we were talking about how he's got a stupid face. Vin Diesel, don't come and hurt me, all right? I know you're a big dude. But he recorded this, and it just made me laugh. Right, I'm going to play it, because even if it sounds bad, hopefully it won't.
Hello, it's me, Vin Diesel from Off the Movies. Look, I've been hearing that you've been saying things about my face being stupid, and I'm not stupid or thick. I'm very clever, actually. I've got GCSEs in maths and in English and in PE. So don't go saying these things that I'm a dafty thick man, because I'm not. I'm very clever, actually, okay? So that's all I want to say. I'm going to go now. I'm off now. I'm going to go and eat some bricks. Okay then, bye-bye. Bye.
What?
I was in tears, man. I'm going to go and eat some bricks. That is Vin Diesel, their exclusive interview. He hasn't got a stupid face. Sorry about that.
John's only saying that so he doesn't get punched in the face later.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
dear, that did crack me up. It was a weird looking game. But
There was something else that I'm actually quite shocked we haven't covered. Now, obviously, over the last couple of weeks, I've been doing the podcast circuit, and was on the Game On Daily, then was on the XboxEra You Had Me at Halo podcast. And look,
you've been a busy boy.
It was their most viewed episode, and I don't want to say it was because I was on, but it's because I was on.
I think it was more because of the subject.
Wow, so much for not wanting to say it.
Yeah. And yeah, Halo had their big update, and since everyone's so quick to jump on and tell me I'm wrong, I was pretty much one of the only people that said, give Halo that full year delay, and everyone called me crazy for saying they're not going to delay Halo for a year, and they just delayed Halo for a year.
how come people only remember when you're wrong
know.
about Elden Ring and new studio announcements and stuff like that, but they don't remember when you're right? You know?
No, that
because
doesn't.
Because being right is overrated. Okay, it's so much funnier to see Nick's reactions when he's called out for being wrong.
It is funny
because it makes for good podcast content. Let me tell you.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I was called crazy a lot for saying it was going to be delayed a year, but I still don't understand the logic behind delaying it for less than a year.
Yeah.
I said it then and I'll say it now. You've already ruined your next-gen console launch by delaying Halo. If you're going to do it, go all the way with it and delay it for a full year to make sure it is perfection. If they were only going to delay it for 3 or 4 months, what a waste. What's the point? Like, it's just, to me,
What
that's
if it only needed to be delayed 3 or 4 months, though? You know?
Well, now this is an interesting subject. So let's walk through this. So we had the high level update. It's pretty clear, and this is where I'm sure everyone is confused, right? That right up until after the showcase, like 2 weeks after the showcase, the game was coming at launch. But it was pretty clear that in July when we saw it, we were like, gameplay looks cool. What's going on with what it looks like? There was obvious concern there, and they rightly pivoted. But I'm very confused to how that conversation hadn't happened earlier internally within Microsoft to get it to that point. Like,
that's the big question.
It is.
I can give an answer, but I can't give one that's not going to piss people off.
You think people, they thought people wouldn't complain and that they would just quietly ship the game out? You think that
No. I actually think the answer is even more concerning. I think it's that they thought that looked good. It could just be that simple. They thought it looked good. I'm not saying that is the answer, but like, again, applying logic, what other answer is there? Staten said he's played the campaign twice, which means the campaign's finished. We've heard the multiplayer is pretty, like, in good shape. So for it to go from revealed in July, ready to go in November, to all of a sudden in August, we're going to delay it, but we don't know how long for, and then all of a sudden in December, delayed for a year. I said it then. Craig could be a blessing in disguise. Like,
yeah, you did say that.
It's just funny. Like, it was a dumb fanboy that made Craig, but mate, he could end up saving this game in the end. Like, I think the bigger concern is that everyone inside 343 and Xbox thought Halo looked good visually,
or people in Xbox didn't know and didn't see what Halo looked like until the July game showcase, and when they saw it, they're like, what?
Man, they've got to have management meetings before that showcase to prove trailers.
I feel like anyone in management got their hands on that game well before any sort of trailer was greenlit.
I have a
different... Like, surely Phil had to have seen that before the July show. He must have.
But like, everything I've seen of Phil seems like he's just very much excited to play the game and doesn't care what it looks like.
Well,
so
I have a slightly different theory. I think that the art style was, to me, and I'm sure people will let us know in the comments and what they think, to me was very, very reminiscent of Halo 3. Like, almost an homage to, right? And we've seen that in the lead up to the trailer. It was kind of like a combination, but it was very, very finely beautiful 4K. To me, and you saw the comparisons to Halo 3 specifically, it kind of looks the same, but there was so much that just didn't make sense as part of that reveal. So I wonder if, and obviously we saw Chris Lee then leave the studio and Joe Staten come in. Is that a direction that has been being pursued for this dev period of going in that kind of art style? They've had the feedback and thought, we're going to have to pivot and go in and retouch everything up, all the assets, everything. Like, the gameplay, we're good. We know what we're doing. But we're going to have to go back and bring it up to a graphical fidelity level that pays homage to that stylized design, but is more gritty and more what the fans want. I don't know. It's interesting, and I don't know why it happened.
That update was almost 80% about how the game looked, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, there was some stuff about the multiplayer, and they were very forthcoming about, no loot boxes and no randomness and rewards and stuff, which is great. But the majority of that update was focused on the one thing people really hated about the demo, which was this game looks like an early Xbox One game. It looks worse than Halo 5, right? And especially for a brand new console, people expected more out of Xbox Series X and Halo Infinite being 343. So that whole update dealt with like, well, things weren't ready in this July update. Like, we weren't doing this, and this. And Craig, he, with the brutes, now we're doing beards and like long hair and stuff. Like, it almost seems in a direct, literal response to people's complaints about it, and they went back to the drawing board and be like, like, we need to just like go back and just do this all over again. Like, not changing the campaign, because like Nick said, Joseph Satan said he played it twice, so it's obviously content complete. It's just that they needed to give the game a visual makeover, because that's what everybody wants. What everybody didn't like about the thing. And it was like, and it takes a year, and we've already seen with the Xbox Series X where some of the launch games maybe aren't performing up to par because developers didn't have dev kits as long, and maybe some of the tools aren't as mature as you would expect. So maybe, and remember when they originally talked about it in July, they were like, ray tracing isn't going to be even launching with the game. And people were wondering, well, why is ray tracing not going to be there? Like, it literally just seems like a direct response to that. It was like, well, we need to go and kind of just make this game look special.
Yeah.
And that's what the majority of that update, and the screens, the renders they showed of
they look good.
The Spartans, they look really good. The sniper rifle, the rocket launcher,
wasn't one of them
really good.
Was it one of the skins that they showed, like the exclusive
SR152?
The SR152.
Yeah, it's basically, for those that don't know what that is if you're still playing Halo 5 right now and you can max out your XP, you get a special skin in Halo Infinite. So you've got a year. Get on it. Grind that bad boy out.
What's the max?
152 is the max, and it's ridiculous to get to that point.
Level 152.
Level 152.
Yeah, SR 152.
I've got no chance. I'm 49.
I'm 100 levels away, and I've played, and arguably, I say I've played a lot of Halo. I've played a lot of Halo in Forge by myself, making stuff no one plays. But it's interesting though, because I mentioned it the last couple of podcasts. We had our virtual LAN last weekend, right, where we all got together and we put up a big Google Meet, and we were all just hopping in and out, could see each other on camera. It was really cool. And I am the Halo fanboy of the group, right? And I'm like, guys, let's play some Halo. We had a bunch of old MCC customs, and it's so nice that works now. It was really nostalgic, and we had a lot of fun. And then I managed to persuade the group to actually come in and play Halo 5, because I was like, they all kind of gave up before the big Forge update dropped when it released back in, when was it, 2015 now? And we had an absolute blast playing all of the silly programmed custom games like Duck Hunt and Mongoose Sumo and stuff like that. And one of the guys said at the end, isn't it weird, we all met playing Halo, and here we are, and the most fun we've had all night is playing Halo in a way it was never originally designed to have been played. And that's true, and it's like, we had more fun doing the silly stuff than we did doing the competitive. Maybe we're just getting old and we're just like driving mongooses into each other. I don't know, but it was a really, really good time. So I feel for the team. I think that the high level update that they put out was good. I think it quelled the concern. It did the right thing. It was super transparent and super detailed. I am very, very curious about when we're going to see that again. And honestly, E3, so 6 months from now, I think, is when we're going to get another glimpse of gameplay, and they'll start their marketing campaign all over again.
That reminds me, that whole 343 info bomb that they did for Halo Infinite. They did that, and then I think it was either 2 days later or 2 days before that dropped. Bungie released a blog post detailing the reasons behind several of their changes in Destiny 2 and why they went with the way they did. And while like everyone seemed to be pretty happy with 343 and like being as transparent as they were with the changes for Infinite, Bungie's sitting there over here going, "Oh yeah, we scrapped all this content from the last 3 years to grow the power ecosystem." And the number one question was, grow it how? If you're taking away content, nothing's growing. It's getting smaller.
Yeah, I think, and from what I've heard, the majority of the Bungie teams are not necessarily focused on Destiny. They're working on
they're on their new game.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're on their new game. They're pretty much done with Destiny. They're checked out.
Question about Halo.
Shoot.
So it's now delayed a year. Between now and then, I'm also interested in your take on this, Rand. Or, sorry, your answer on this. Question. Is Xbox One going to be ditched?
I'm going to say no, because the reason it's free to play is because they need to reach as many users as possible, and that's the whole point.
I'm going to agree with Rand. I've also had heard some pretty direct confirmation that there's no chance that's happening. But we saw, I think Randy brought it up at the beginning of the podcast, right? This whole counterpoint piece from Windows Central about the for and against, why Cyberpunk is a reason that it should be. And I have to agree. I think that there is a very good chance that they'll probably do what the counterpoint to that original article Windows Central did, where it will get to a point in 2-3 years' time where they'll just say, this is the last update for Xbox One. We're no longer going to support.
Just like Bungie did with Destiny 1.
Exactly.
Where it was like, at some point,
we've hit the tipping point. We're going this way now. If you want to carry on playing, you need to go get yourself a new machine. I think that's the likelihood. They have spent a lot of time refining and building an engine that can do this. It makes no sense to throw it out. I don't think you're going to see the disparity that you've seen with Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is particularly a very CPU intensive game that is being absolutely butchered, or is butchering the Jaguar CPUs in the OG consoles. Right, it just can't. It can't do it. Whereas I think because they're first party, I think they are beholden to support the Xbox One. And much to Rand's point, it's free to play for a reason, and that's because they want bigger. They want the headline most played game at launch.
I think
here's a test for being misquoted. I think Xbox One's getting ditched.
You reckon?
Yep.
I mean, I would want Xbox.
This isn't me saying I know it's getting ditched. Please, before some unknown website makes an article or something like that.
Don't worry. I've already clipped the part. I've already clipped everything of I know it's getting ditched out of context of everything else you said.
I'm not saying I know or I've heard. All I'm saying is I personally believe Xbox One will be ditched.
I mean, I personally would want it to be ditched because I'm selfish and I have a Series X and I don't care. But then again, I don't run the business of Xbox.
I'm in the same boat.
So
I think the free to play. I think the free to play angle of they want to get as many people to play this as possible. It's like but I mean, they also are releasing on PC, so it's not like they're going to be missing out all that much.
And here comes the point. So we all know how rough Cyberpunk is on base consoles.
Yeah.
I've already been called crazy before over Halo, and I was right. So Halo is gonna look rough on base Xbox One, which is where the majority of the base is. On base Xbox One. Given the focus is now purely on visuals, they ain't getting much better on the base console. The focus is going to be the next-gen consoles. And if anything, the lower-end spec console they're going to put the focus into is the Series S, which seems to be punching a little bit above its weight in some games, like Cyberpunk. Given they have PC, given they have xCloud, given they have all these things, they've still got a lot of people to tap into. Maybe they'll release an Xbox Cloud app for Xbox One and say, you want to play Halo Infinite in the best way? Do it through the cloud. I just think there's such a focus on visuals now. This delay, let's be honest, this delay is for the graphics.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all it's for. You don't delay for a year for graphics if you're going to stick to the console that is going to absolutely anchor the ever-loving crap out of this game. I don't know.
Counterpoint to that, right, is Red Dead Redemption 2, right? Let's say Halo Infinite, and Halo Infinite isn't open world, right? It's
sort of is.
It sort of is, right? I think maybe Metro Exodus style, where you've got these huge hubs. But if you look at Red Dead Redemption 2 on Xbox One X, it was 4K native 30 FPS, right? You had the enemy AI, and it was a lot more open world. It had all the busy work and the side quests and blah, 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 blah. Halo is going to be, well, we don't know yet, but I think if they can achieve, a 900p on the One S or something around there, and as long as the game runs okay, and maybe they limit the frame rate to campaign to 30 FPS, and they make sure the multiplayer is a smooth 60 at 900, I don't see any reason. The one area where I will agree with you, Nick, on why they should, and it's a selfish one on my part, is because I love to play stuff in Forge and build levels. In Halo 5, I worked with 343 on a number of matchmaking projects to build maps, content and stuff, from their ODST playlist to doubles and all sorts of stuff like that, right? And they have performance tools, and there was a mandate that your frame rate on your map, if you wanted your map in matchmaking, it's got to perform. You can't have drops. Now, I could build a map, and if I was sitting there playing on my Xbox One X, no frame rate drops, absolutely hunky-dory, no probs. Boot that up on an OG Xbox One, awful. So it was constant cutting back, detail, everything else to get it to where it needed to be to run in matchmaking. So from a very selfish perspective, I'm looking forward to this next generation of user-generated content. I've got to worry about the performance on an OG Xbox One when I want to ram this thing full of detail and objects.
But is that not another reason why they'll ditch it?
It's a selfish reason on my part, but I'm not a programmer, I'm not an engineer. I would also argue with you, a year to optimize and refine the shit out of it makes it more likely that it will ship in a good state and less likely that it will be left behind.
Plus, it's kind of like what I also said earlier about Flight Sim, where somebody's just, if they get rid of the Xbox One version, someone's going to bring up the Phil Spencer and Matt Booty quote of, you promised you weren't leaving anybody behind up until a certain point, and it's still 2021. And like you look at Sony, Miles Morales is on PS4 and PS5. Even Horizon Forbidden West is PS4 and PS5. I mean, like the way they talk about, I know like Ratchet and Clank is PS5 only and Gran Turismo 7, but they're being a little cagey about God of War Ragnarok. Wouldn't be surprised if that's also on PS4.
Yeah, but they've also got 110 million PS4s, not 50 million Xbox Ones.
But I think it's just more like the success of Halo Infinite, the business success of Halo Infinite is strictly going to be how the multiplayer performs and how many people it reaches. And when Phil talks about their metrics of success within Xbox, it's always number of people playing it, monthly active users, all that stuff. It's not sales anymore, right?
Yeah.
And Halo Infinite is free to play for a reason. And I know it's free to play on PC, which has the largest base, and it's going to be on Game Pass Ultimate, so it's going to be streamable. And assuming it'll be out on iOS and Android, because iOS and PC streaming is coming spring 2021.
Yep.
That's a lot of people. So you'd be like, well, they could do all that and not have to put it on Xbox One. But this game was built with Xbox One in mind from the very onset. It was built, everything, the campaign, the multiplayer has already been built around the limitations of Xbox One. So even if they dropped it, it's not like the game's going to be any better, like at its core, because the game's already been built. Joseph Staten's already played it twice. The campaign's already done. They couldn't do anything more special or things they couldn't do in the campaign because the Xbox One version already exists and it's already built around it.
Yeah.
And considering Microsoft is all about monthly active users, like that game, I think is 100% going to be on Xbox One, and it'll be on Xbox One for a couple years. They'll pull support, and they'll be like, you can stream it on the xCloud app on Xbox One, or you can get a new console or play it on PC. But I think for sure it is going to be launching on Xbox One.
Okay, then another counterpoint. Another thing the full year delay does, it allows more people to buy Xbox Series X and Series S consoles, building that base.
Yep.
Yes.
It allows them to get all the Series X APUs into their xCloud infrastructure, which means people on Xbox Ones can stream the better version and not the Xbox One version. And a full year does give them the opportunity to fully decouple the Xbox One and allow them to really show off the newer hardware without being tied down. Maybe it needs a full year to do that.
Well,
I don't know.
I'm with you in the sense that we're selfish people. I have a Series X. I don't care. But I also not Phil Spencer and 343 and Bonnie Ross running a business where you need these amount of people. I mean, we talk about Cyberpunk and how bad it looks on last gen consoles, but they're laughing all the way to the bank. They had 8 million pre-orders, and whatever more they sold. I mean, it's a business at the end of the day, and I think their business revolves around having as many people as possible and selling battle passes and cosmetics and stuff and all that good stuff.
True. That is very true. But given Game Pass is a thing, which Cyberpunk is not on, Game Pass means people don't have to buy it. Let's be honest.
Well, the campaign they have to buy the campaign though.
Do they?
Multiplayer is free.
The campaign will be on Game Pass.
The multiplayer is free to play. It's going to be like Warzone, where
the campaign will be on Game Pass.
Oh yeah.
No.
So,
well, yeah. The campaign will be on Game Pass.
You've got 50 million Xbox Ones, and most of those will be base. You've got almost 20 million Game Pass subscribers now. In another year, they could have 30 or more. Now, if that's that many Game Pass subscribers that don't have to buy the game, the people with a base Xbox One, they'll download it, play it, probably see that it plays horribly, and won't engage with the game at all. So all of a sudden, that engagement isn't going to be there. In theory, you're tapping into 50 million Xbox Ones, but so if by the end of next year when Halo comes out, you've sold, I don't know, how many Series X and S's do we think they can sell in a year? Given that they're currently basically selling out what they make.
I mean, it depends if the systems fall off the face of, remember the Xbox One sold really well for November and December, and then it fell off a cliff in January. We have to wait and see what it's like. We have to wait to see what the economy is going to be like, with everything going on. And
that's another reason why it might swing to stay on Xbox One, by the way, the economy itself. People might not be buying consoles.
I just think that your engagement will be far, far higher on the newer consoles than it will be on the base consoles. So your 50 million doesn't amount to much.
You could be right. The most engaged people might be the people who have Series X's and Series S's.
And decent PCs.
Yeah, and decent PCs, but I get your argument. All of a sudden, the sacrifices you're making start to become less and less worth it. And again, I'm seeing it already. I'm being called crazy again, just like I was with the 1 year delay. There is method to my madness. And long term, ditching the Xbox One would be the better move. And again, it's not just a selfish reason, even a business reason.
I'd love to see them throw the Xbox One out the window and never go near it again. But you also have to bear in mind, Nick, this is being built for PC, and they're not going to say suddenly on PC. You'll be surprised what they'll support on PC. They'll support a GTX 970 if they can. They will, because more people that can play, they'll enable them to play. Right? It's not all about 4K. It's about as long as it runs okay, then they'll sell it. They'll sell it. There's plenty of first party games. It's not. It's not.
It
People
is.
can argue it.
With
People
Infinite-
like you and I and Rand and Figments and Xbox fans and PlayStation fans, they'll argue it matters.
Hey.
But it won't.
Don't bring me into this, okay? I'm comfortably staying out of this dumb debate over whether or not.
because again, we're still forgetting the fundamental issue here. It's been delayed for a year for the graphics. It's just that's always going to be there, regardless of what everyone thinks. They delayed it for a full year just for the graphics.
Let me ask you.
So
Okay.
4K does matter. The 4K obviously does.
All right. Well, what about this? If they wanted as much positive reinforcement as possible, which the article gave, because like, hey, we're focusing on the graphics, why not just come out and be like, also, we heard your complaints, and this game is next gen only. Because then there'd be a swell of people being like, that's the best move you could have done. Amazing. Now it's next gen only.
Maybe that decision's not made yet.
I would
That
think that
decision might not have been made yet.
I think that decision has been made.
Yeah.
Personally.
I think
I don't know. There's been a few Xbox One games that have been like. There's a few new games that are ditching Xbox One. I think Everwild ditched it. Forza ditched it, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I'm going to stick to my guns like I always do. I think Xbox One.
We'll wait and see.
Well, what about the fact that you can play a next gen version of Master Chief right now in Fortnite?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. I bought him straight away. As soon as he was there, I bought him.
Let me ask you this. Was that always the plan for marketing? That Halo Infinite was going to be out and Master Chief was going to be in Fortnite as sort of like a cross-promotional thing? Or did this only really happen because the game got delayed and, because I was thinking like...
But they got Kratos in as well.
Yeah, but Kratos doesn't have a game competing with Fortnite, and Halo Infinite was going to be competing with Fortnite in a free-to-play model, right? On the PC, on Xbox. Fortnite doesn't really partner up with games or characters that compete with it, right? In any meaningful way. And Epic's already said, like, their competition's Netflix. So I look at, like, Master Chief, and if Halo Infinite was out right now, it would be competing with Fortnite because it would be pulling people away from Fortnite playing Halo. And then would Fortnite really be advertising or promoting a character that is from another franchise that you're directly competing with? I don't know. I kind of think like maybe I don't know. Maybe
I feel like that's a bit. To say just because the multiplayer in Infinite is free to play that it's competing with Fortnite. I mean, is Infinite gonna have a battle royale mode? I don't think so. Fortnite is just battle royale.
I reckon there will be one eventually.
Yeah, but when Halo Infinite comes out, Ninja's going to be streaming it, and Ninja is all about Fortnite. I'm just saying, like, I think the way everything is, like, you don't see Fortnite, being like, hey, we got a character coming in from Call of Duty because Warzone competes with Fortnite, right?
Call of Duty has characters.
All these special.
I was going to say Call of Duty doesn't really have characters though.
Still, but I don't know. You could bring in, someone from Call of Duty Modern Warfare or Black Ops that people know, like Frank Woods or something.
Well, Captain Price, he would be a fun one to bring in. But yeah, I guess you're right, Rand. Was that part of their original marketing, or was it just because obviously we saw the Monster energy drinks and all of the XP tokens and all of that jazz, and now suddenly it's like, yeah, we couldn't put the brakes on that. Was Fortnite's sort of partnership already planned? That's an interesting one. I wonder if it was.
Well, we do know that Epic can turn that sort of stuff around pretty quick. So if Rand is right and it was done, Halo's not there, let's get some promotion for Halo by getting it in Fortnite, they probably could do something like that quite fast.
I'm not saying I know. I'm just saying like
No. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying if you're not saying if you're right as in I'm saying like if your assumption or if your guess is correct and that is what happened, it would line up because Epic are quite fast at turning this sort of stuff around.
Yeah,
like
I just thought it would be a very weird thing for Fortnite to market the game that it would be directly competing with.
Yeah,
but that was my only thing. Maybe it's been planned for a long time, and this was just all just part of it.
Yeah.
It could just be a coincidence because it is like if you look at Kratos was first, and they called it the Gaming Legends series.
Yeah.
So I guess it seems like, because remember this battle pass's theme is hunters. So obviously, as soon as because obviously I bought the new battle pass. Look, I wasn't going to. I spent so many hours playing the Marvel battle pass because it was Marvel, and I'm like, I'm taking a break from Fortnite after this. And then all of a sudden, the Mandalorian was in this new battle pass, and I'm like, oh god, now I've got to get another battle pass for the Mandalorian. And then Kratos came, so I went and spent $30 on that. And then I saw the Chief was coming, spent another $30 on the Chief, and I'm just like,
who's coming from Nintendo?
Yeah, well, I was guessing Samus would come, but I don't know if we haven't seen leaks. We all just assume Samus because, okay, so they've got a PlayStation rep who's a Spartan or a hunter. They've got the Microsoft rep who's a Spartan and a hunter. Are they going to put Samus in, who's a bounty hunter from Nintendo? But I'd love her to be in, but I don't know if she is. So it could just be a coincidence because the theme of this battle pass. I don't know.
Maybe.
It's an interesting theory, though.
It's because I feel for all the marketing guys, and even on it's even on the back of the box on the Series X box, man. All that artwork, and it's like a year away.
I'm actually looking at my Series X box. That's what my laptop is sitting on right now. My Surface Book is sitting on the Xbox Series X box, which, by the way, I finally got.
Yeah. You finally got the weaker, less performant.
Yeah, finally got the weaker next-gen console. I mean, I've had a true next-gen console for a while now, but I finally got the other one.
Yeah, sure.
Well, and I will say it does look as stupid as I thought it did lying down horizontally. But someone on Twitter said, "Why don't you just try turning it a little bit so the vent is facing out to you?" So bazooka mode, I call it basically. I got to say, it actually looks quite cool in bazooka mode, where all you see is the grill. Because I mean, I'm not using the disk drive anyway, and my Harmony remote can still reach the IR despite the fact that it's down the back.
Nice.
So it's great. I don't have to look at this big, stupid, ugly rectangle thing. I just see the grill, and it looks awesome. I actually quite like it that way.
It's interesting, actually, and it's a nice even segue into another topic. You're talking about less performant and more performant next-gen consoles. Digital Foundry have been really hammering the Cyberpunk comparisons. So obviously there's a lot to talk about with base consoles, pro consoles, and next-gen consoles. And there was an interesting statement made, which really surprised me to read and hear from Digital Foundry.
Yeah, I know. Wasn't it?
Rand, have you heard this one?
Good.
That it runs better, or it has features of the Series X version because of the marketing deal with the Xbox.
Yeah,
that one.
Isn't that the most bizarre thing you've ever heard from Digital Foundry? Like, normally they are on the money; they just report facts. I've never heard them put illusions or.
I think it was more. I think what made that comment stand out a little bit more was, so they criticized Assassin's Creed Valhalla and said, this has Microsoft marketing, yet it performs worse on Series X. But then with Cyberpunk, the Xbox versions have more density, more pedestrians, more. Oh, but, they did have a marketing deal, so maybe that was something they did as part of that. I'm like, whoa. Hold on a second.
So weird.
Hold on a second. So does Microsoft's marketing money get them nothing, or does it get them something?
Yeah.
It's just... And I mean, in the end, apparently the PS5 version still kind of performs better, like the resolution in performance, because the PS5 doesn't have the choice between quality and performance. It only has performance. And it is a higher resolution than the Series X's performance mode. Is that right, Rand?
I think so, yeah. But because basically they said if you want 60 frames, get the PS5 version, because I guess it holds 60 frames better. But if you want better visuals, get the Series X version.
Because it has the quality option.
Yeah, because it does have the quality option.
But even in performance mode, it still has more density, more effects, more like, I think they were talking about ambient occlusion. It was like 6:30 in the morning when I was watching it, and I had the volume right down, so I couldn't. But I think it had a few more effects and things like that, even in performance mode. But then I don't know, the way they just alluded to the fact that maybe they did have a One X console that was a Cyberpunk one, and maybe,
The only thing I can think is
I
that
think-
they've obviously been hammering doing those comparisons, and they've probably been working their nuts off, and that probably just slipped. That slipped by their editing process somehow. It was just like a conversational piece that made it in.
I think the comparisons for now are kind of useless because we don't even have actual next gen versions of the game yet.
Yeah,
like
you're just watching
the next gen update.
Back
The next gen update
running
isn't
at max.
until exactly. We're not even going to get the next gen version, next gen patch until what? Early next year, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's more just the oddity of that comment.
Yeah,
like,
really strange.
it makes it more difficult to empathize with their complaining about Twitter trolls when you kind of create a lot of that fuel. Do you know what I mean? Like, it does make it more difficult to empathize. Like, they shouldn't be copying any shit just for doing their job.
Yep.
But let's be honest, what they do has obviously fuels that. Whether people like it or not, that's just the reality.
Yeah.
So to then make a comment like that, which starts to creep into conspiracy theory territory,
it was a weird
and
one.
just, I don't know,
It was a weird one.
I don't know.
But it's definitely been a busy couple of weeks. There's been a lot of good news. I think, again, Xbox fans are kind of being told, just wait. But, there's plenty of games to play. I mean, have you seen how much stuff just dumped onto Game Pass? Just like, there you go. Just go nuts, kids. Have some fun. I'm certainly not wanting for any video games, between now and whatever comes in 2021. But we obviously have our other two sections for this podcast, which are our rumour mill. I don't think there is anything for the rumour mill at this time. Elden Ring will be shown on New Year's Eve. No, it's not.
Like I said, I don't care. I gave Rand the receipts here. I don't want to know about Elden Ring anymore. I don't care what my person says. I explicitly told them, please don't talk to me about Elden Ring anymore. I don't care if it's coming out tomorrow. I don't care if it's being revealed on my birthday. I don't care what is going on with Elden Ring. I don't want to know. I don't want to hear about it.
Okay, so when Elden Ring eventually releases, and this podcast talks about it, I expect Nick to refrain from being on that podcast for that episode, and it'll just be me and John talking about Elden Ring for an hour and a half. Right, John?
I don't want to. And what annoys me is, and you know what? I blame myself. Like, I even said it because John's seen the receipts too. Like, I said to my person, if you can't guarantee it 100% that it's going to be there, I'm not going to say anything. And yet I still went and said something because Phil tweeted about it. The From Twitter account tweeted about it.
The signs were positive, let's be fair.
Maybe they're right. Maybe there is something to this. So I thought, you know what? I better jump in before someone else takes my scoop. I should have stuck with my gut and I held off for a month not saying anything. I should have just stuck with my gut and shut my mouth about that stupid game. I don't want to know about it anymore.
But we do have our community questions, and obviously, Rand, with you being present here today, there's obviously you've got a huge swath of admiring and adoring fans ready to throw questions at you to get
I doubt that very much.
Well, I mean, we'll start off with our patrons because they're lovely. So before we dive into community questions, I'm going to obviously give out our patrons a shout out. You make all of this possible, all the work that we do to bring you the latest and greatest on Xbox. So big thank you to the Scarecrow121, Torn Raptor, Shadowgasm, Sowing Shade, Blast the Bass, and Nottian. Thank you for helping us keep rolling with this. And obviously big thank you to all our other patrons as well. You guys rock. You're all lovely. And I'll toss the microphone over to Nick to give us the community questions. What we got?
Only one in the Patreon.
That's my fault because
I
had a very busy day and I completely forgot after I tweeted.
You put it out late?
I put it out late. But then, if you've got the Patreon app installed, it should ping you. So maybe they already replied to me on Twitter.
Torn Raptor. Hi all and Rand Del Tomato. Much like Rand, I have missed Splinter Cell, and I'm very excited about Perfect Dark. For fun, what's your fantasy booking for the Xbox E3 conferences next year? I'm thinking in line of new announcements only, no updates of games we currently know about. Also, just first party. As we know, third party can be hard to read in the tea leaves. Elden Ring. Okay.
So just new games.
Just new games from first party. Yeah, not updates to like Sea of Thieves or
Compulsion's game for sure. I think.
But what's your fantasy booking?
My fantasy booking?
So what's like the what? So okay, we've all wanted Perfect Dark and we got it. What's your next Perfect Dark that you'd love for them to bring back? I guess that's what it's asking.
Yeah, what's your dream? Booking. Just your dream E3 from first party only.
My fantasy booking would be something like Coalition's ready to debut their next game, and it's not Gears of War. It's a brand new IP. You know.
Yeah.
What it would be, I don't know, but as much as like that would be my fantasy, I guess, would be for Coalition to work on something brand new. I don't know, man. Like I don't really have a lot of. I know some people like Clobro would be like, bring back Conquer or Banjo or something. Not me. I'm not one of those people. I don't really. That's a tough one for me. I'll let you guys go first. I'll try to think some more.
I can throw my proverbial hat into the ring. My dream announce at E3 from Microsoft's first party would be the Coalition announcing a brand new IP. Well, not a brand new IP. I would love them to take up the mantle of Mech Assault and have it be this glorious, like sort of single player mech game where you've got moments where you step out a la Titanfall, but it's third person, but you've got a mech that you can kind of build and you go through a campaign. But then it also has like a really cool multiplayer mode that kind of riffs off of Chromehounds and brings in that kind of design your own mech and go in with a squad and you're fighting across a massive city and all the buildings can come down. That I would love to see.
I will say that's an interesting idea because the best part of Gears 4 was when you were in the mech.
Exactly why I said it.
That was the best part of Gears 4, which I found thoroughly okay.
Yep.
But that mech part at the end was real cool.
Yeah. I would love to see something like that out of the blue. And I guess at a really, really crazy out there, no way it's going to happen, I'd love to see one of the teams, and if the initiative hadn't have announced Perfect Dark already, and if we didn't kind of semi-already know that was coming down the pipe, if they'd have been very quiet and then surprised everyone with a Freelancer reboot, I would have sat up and paid attention eagerly. Really, really cool game. Would have been awesome to see that reimagined.
Figments, yours?
Oh man, that's a tough question. Well, now that they're going to own Bethesda in like 2 months, give me a Morrowind remake. Announce that at E3, please.
Okay.
What about you, Nick?
Mine's easy.
Cool.
Mine is super easy. Jet Force Gemini. I want Jet Force Gemini back. And before Insomniac was acquired, I was asking for Microsoft to tap Insomniac on the shoulder to bring back Jet Force Gemini as like a Ratchet and Clank clone.
Wasn't Jet Force Gemini the one franchise of Rare's Phil hated, or was it something else?
No,
there was one franchise he publicly has said before he does not like.
Brute
Force,
I think Brute Force,
or Blink Time Sweeper or whatever.
Jet Force Gemini is exactly, especially if you bring it back as a Ratchet and Clank clone, is exactly the sort of thing the Xbox portfolio is missing. Like Phil has said it himself, we need more kids games, and they do, because Astrobot is amazing, and everything Nintendo does is amazing, and Microsoft has none of that. So
I'll agree with you on the first part about Astrobot, but second part, that's a big fat no.
What?
Nintendo's amazing? Lol, no.
What?
Ooh.
Oh, dude.
Why is he on the spot?
You know my distaste for Nintendo.
Super Mario Odyssey is like the perfect video game. It's so good. I still can't believe there are people that don't like that game. It staggers me. It is so amazing. But in the end, though, like I said, Phil has said they need more kids' games. And Rare has so many IPs that could be brought back. Either they're already kids' games and you just bring them back straight, or they can be tweaked to be kids' games. And Jet Force Gemini is one of them. They have nothing like that. Absolutely nothing like it. And they've got enough teams now. They have enough studios where I'm sure one of them is capable enough to bring back Jet Force Gemini as, like, again, for me, a Ratchet and Clank clone. That's how I would do it.
Well, you had extra time there, Rand, so you had any thoughts?
You see, most of like Rare's IPs I don't care about, so I don't want any of those to come back. I publicly said I don't want Banjo or Conker to come back, but like that's just personal. I think Microsoft should bring back Banjo. I just wouldn't care if they did.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, man. It's just like there'd be a lot of very happy people, and it'd be a cool moment, but I would never play it.
It'd be cool. You know, like I got two here, and one of them never going to happen, but you'll see what I'm getting at. I love Forza Horizon to death. It's like one of my favorite racing franchises, but like I feel like it's also getting too samey, and I kind of want them to mix it up. But what if they announce? And this kind of, I don't know if we're talking about this, probably not, but there was a rumor Jeff Grubb was saying, hey, Forza Horizon 5's coming out in 2021, which I tend to believe.
I agree.
What if instead of Forza Horizon 5, they announced we're bringing back PGR, Project Gotham Racing?
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
It would never happen, clearly.
No.
But since it's fantasy, that would be something I want. Now, the other is... I've been saying I want like a sequel to Alan Wake 2 or Quantum Break 2. I feel like we got shortchanged by not getting any of those because of how those games did. And I know Remedy owns Alan Wake, so that's off the table. But like, now that they own Bethesda, what if you gave what if you gave Quantum Break, because it ended on such a cliffhanger, to
Arcane,
one of the Arcane studios?
Yeah.
To kind of go into or something. Like I was just thinking about that off the top of my head. Like, wouldn't that be something like really cool? It'll probably never happen either.
I think
I would actually want Dishonored 3 from Arcane to happen. But
yeah, I'd love to see more immersive sims. And I saw a really good thread, and I can't remember if it was on Reset or on XboxEra, but someone was saying like, now, because Dishonored 1 and 2 were really good games, but they weren't necessarily huge commercial successes. Critically, they were loved, but commercially, not so much. Similarly for Prey, right? Are we going to see this resurgence of immersive sim games because of Microsoft's backing now and Arcane being like arguably the leaders in that style of player agency driven games that you can do a bunch
maybe
of stuff.
Perfect Dark is one.
Maybe Perfect Dark is. It'd be certainly super interesting.
Although it looks like they're borrowing from Mirror's Edge on that one. We forgot to mention that before.
Did we?
That it sounds like it's borrowing a little bit from Mirror's Edge.
Well, they talk about first person movement and changing it up so you're not just moving around.
Sliding under things, vaulting over things, which is
very Mirror's Edge. Yeah. Be very interesting.
We also need Phil to come out on stage and being like, the Bethesda games will be exclusive to Xbox as well.
Yeah,
it's gotta happen.
Fantasy.
Man.
It has to.
I don't see it not.
Yeah.
I fully expect Starfield to be announced at E3, like shown at E3 this coming year, 2021, and it trailer, and I expect it to be exclusive. Like,
did anybody think when Jeff said, "Here's the last reveal, world premiere," that when it started out in space, did anybody think for a split second that it was going to be Starfield?
Yes.
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah, I thought it was 100% going to be Starfield.
Yeah,
I was very surprised when it was Mass Effect. Yeah. Especially when it was Mass Effect, I was like, okay, the Mass Effect remaster. But then it was Mass Effect 4. I was like, wow, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I look forward to playing that in 4 years.
It's funny though, Rand. We're all saying that the Bethesda games have to be exclusive, but one thing, I think I said it on that other podcast I was on, I said that one thing a lot of people haven't thought about is that, you don't spend $7.5 billion to put your games on other platforms. You want to make Xbox more attractive, which is what you do with Bethesda's games by making them exclusive. Having said that, someone did say something to me which made me pause, which is, what if they bought Bethesda because they knew Google and Amazon were sniffing around?
Yeah.
So it was more... Initially, it was more to keep Bethesda away from Google and Amazon.
I don't know.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying that's the reason. Please don't misquote. I'm not saying that is the reason.
He's saying
Someone
it's the reason,
just posed
everybody.
that idea to
Take
me.
that to Twitter.
It did make sense to me. Like, so if it turns out that Bethesda's games don't end up exclusive and everyone's going to rage and go, oh my God, I can't believe you're letting these games out. Maybe it's because buying Bethesda wasn't about making their games exclusive. Yeah. Maybe it was about keeping Bethesda away from them.
I don't think
not solely, but I don't know.
I don't think you spend $7.5 billion on a what if, right? You spend it to strengthen your business and your goals and your priorities. I do find it continually to this day, and I know we've said it before, and Rand, I'm sure you'll agree with this. I find it hilarious, the narrative in the industry, that there is even a question about it. If PlayStation had made this acquisition, there would be zero conversation on, of course they're going to still come to Xbox. Nope.
They would not.
Like, no one would ask this.
Yeah. You know what would be the worst, though? The worst case scenario? The worst timeline? They all come to PlayStation and they run better on PlayStation 5.
Yeah. Well, they've got better tools.
Hey, Starfield runs better on PS5. Like, okay. Well, we got it for free on Xbox, so
yeah.
Because there is that talk, and I did talk to somebody, who basically told me like this was 100% about Game Pass and had nothing to do with exclusivity. But this person, like I don't think would be in the position to know.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, there is that thought, like. Yeah,
right.
they do talk about Game Pass, and what if they're like, you know what if like Phil and them or Satya's like, we'll let you spend the money, but you can still make a lot of money back if you put Starfield on PlayStation 5. Like, yeah, you can make it a play for Game Pass all you want, but you're putting those games on the other platforms, or maybe as part of the deal, they gave immunity, because like when they talk about Xbox Game Studios, it's like Xbox Game Studios and Bethesda. It's almost like they're two separate.
But that's because the deal's not done yet, though.
And that could be because the deal's not done.
I have a feeling that rhetoric is going to hold even after the deal is finalized. Like, I think keeping the identity separate is also kind of like a good thing, because it means, at least in part, that people can view Bethesda as essentially still forging its own destiny while having the money and power of Microsoft behind them, which is something they were pretty much flying by the seat of their pants before. Like, their games were releasing. Their games were releasing, and while they were reviewing good and the players who played them really enjoyed them for the most part, like, these games were selling less and less every release.
I think
like something had to
get... The impression I get when I've seen interviews with Todd Howard and stuff is that he's really all in on being part of Xbox Game Studios. That's just the impression I get listening to him. He seems all in on it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think it might just be because the deal's not done yet.
I think it's going to be a Disney situation. I definitely think it's going to be a Disney situation where, Disney owns like New Line Cinemas, but New Line Cinemas still retains its brand and image and sells its particular brand of games. It's just benefiting Disney now. You know what I mean?
I think it speaks a little bit to the intent of Microsoft with that acquisition, right? Because they were very clear when they announced it that Bethesda will remain their autonomy and independence. They'll just have our financial... But, I'm paraphrasing, but you get the gist. I think that will continue to a degree, but I completely disagree with the releasing on multiple platforms. If I'm wrong, I will take my L and, eat my hat and all that sort of jazz. But, man, it's a ballsy power move.
I don't think it'll be released on other platforms as part of the deal of maintaining your autonomy, but more maintaining your autonomy in, if you want to publish your own games, you can. If you want, you guys have your own direction for the games that your studios want to make, so be it. As long as it's exclusive to Xbox and PC and it's on Game Pass day one, we don't care. I think that's exactly what's going to be happening with Bethesda, and honestly, I think it's a good thing that they're maintaining their brand and their image, as it were, because it means that, like, it means that while you look at Bethesda and say that's going to be on that's going to be an Xbox game, at least you can also say that's also a Bethesda game. You know?
Yeah, just a quick one.
Yeah.
Well,
I was just gonna say, like, I feel like the Bethesda games will only come to the platforms that have Game Pass. So unless Game Pass comes to Switch or Game Pass comes to PlayStation, then they won't. But I don't know. They've been saying some very like Phil says one thing, and then like the CFO is like, we want the games to be first, better, best, which implies you know that they'll be elsewhere. But then like, does he really know, or they just kind of? Yeah. I guess maybe we'll definitely have a better understanding by E3 because the deal.
And once the deal is done,
and like once they start announcing these games, like Machine Games is getting ready to announce, presumably Wolfenstein 3 and Arcane, and Starfield needs to be revealed. We'll know because it'll be like Xbox, PC, and if there's no mention of PlayStation, we'll know.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Very quickly, Ed, because I'm not sure if you're refreshed. I just got a ping. Mort, one of our patrons, quickly popped up on Patreon with another question, which is, hey, it's a short one this week. If Rand wasn't a tomato, which vegetable or fruit, rather, would he be? And why? I think that we've got to ask the important questions on this podcast, Rand, so I'll leave this one to you.
You need to get Jez on here, because like he's the one who made this thing up completely, and even made GIFs on Twitter that people use and stuff. Like, people bought. He literally made like socks and mugs that people could buy, and people have bought stuff. Like he
went all out.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You guys should really do. You should
get Jez on
hit Jez up and get Jez on.
I don't know if Jez will be on.
No,
I don't think he'll be on. We'll ask, but I don't think he'll be on.
Because you're always wrong about Elden Ring?
No. I'll ask, but I don't think he'll be on. But we'll try.
Fair enough.
So hopefully we answered that one question from.
Well, hang on. He didn't actually pick a fruit. He just.
What fruit would I want to be? I don't know.
Or vegetable.
Broccoli, I guess.
Broccoli. Man, that's a terrible choice.
I mean, it's the only fruit. It's not even a fruit. It's a vegetable. But
yeah, I was about to say it's not a fruit.
Yeah.
Tomatoes.
It doesn't matter. It's broccoli. Randall Broccoli 19.
Right.
There you go.
Okay. You had it here first.
All right.
I look forward to Jez's new merchandising run.
Okay. We'll go to Twitter now. First question on Twitter, Malik Labs. We always talk about studio acquisitions. Therefore, which small studios do you think have the potential to be really huge and come out with great games if Microsoft were to acquire them? That's an interesting way to phrase that question. So he's saying there's a studio out there right now that's independent, and what do you think they could do if Microsoft were to acquire them?
I recently have been playing Call of the Sea I think the developers are Out of the Blue,
Correct.
which I think was their first game.
It was.
It's actually really good.
Yeah.
If you like kind of like that first person puzzle adventure myth style game with a very Lovecraftian story. So like that, they immediately come to mind as like small studio, small team. Presumably, I don't know how many people work there, but like if Microsoft acquired them, that could make games like that. My mind also goes to Dontnod, independent studio. They just released Twin Mirror to kind of underwhelming reviews. That game was originally supposed to be episodic, and then they released it all in one chunk. They had success with Tell Me Why. I could see Microsoft, forging a relationship with them. Asobo comes to mind after the success.
Are they still small though?
I mean, what define? I don't know. Like what's the definition of small? Yeah,
well, I don't know. That's the thing. He just says small people. Studio. I don't know.
I'm just thinking of independent studios.
Like I think Microsoft 7.5 billion likely.
I think Microsoft should send the check out to Asobo right now. Being like, we want you guys here.
Should be the number one target.
I know they have another game plan with Focus, which maybe potentially is a hold up there. I don't like there. I mean, there's so many small independent studios.
Yeah,
it's really those are just three off the top of my head because they've done stuff recently, and one because I'm playing the game. But
Yeah.
I mean, Call of the Sea, out of the blue, was 12 people, and they built that in a year and a half.
I don't know. Well, I'm going to give the similar answer I've always given, which for me, and I hope I still don't know if I'm pronouncing this studio's name right, and it's Shinen.
Yeah.
Shinen. They made The Tourist.
Mm-hmm.
But those guys, I've said this 100 times, they are the most technically competent studio out there. Like, The Tourist is like same as Ori. It's like, I think it's 6K downsampled, 4K 60 on 1X. Like, they are technical wizards, and the stuff they pull off on Nintendo's hardware is amazing. And I think they are a studio, like, they basically beg Nintendo to acquire them, and Nintendo won't acquire them. I think the fact that they've made The Tourist and it's on Xbox hopefully might lead somewhere. Like, I would love for Phil to acquire them, because I reckon, given Microsoft's resources, the access to the Series X, Series S hardware, they could do unbelievable things. Truly, truly on another level that most can't reach, if given the resources and the ability to build up their team, because they're only very small. I reckon they could destroy just about every other studio out there on a technical level. Wow. They'd be unbelievable.
Good pick.
I love that studio.
I think I've not given this much thought before. I would love to see. I think maybe Hello Games would be a reasonably.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, because they really. Yeah, I mean, we all remember the drama when No Man's Sky came out, right? It was the kickback was pretty furious, and they just went dark and just worked, and then went ta-da, and then they've earned themselves. It's a bit of a redemption arc for that team, right? But if you look at what No Man's Sky did from a small team, it was pretty remarkable from a technology perspective, right? With procedural generation. They recently released, and forgive me, fellow co-host, but I can't remember the name. Was it The Last Campfire? I'm sure that was them. And again, that was very warmly received, very well made, beautiful art direction, etc., ran well, blah, blah, blah. That's another small team that clearly has these really grand creative ideas and visions. And if Microsoft is seeking unique with ambition, Hello Games, I think, really fits that bill. I think they are really, really one to keep an eye on. That would be mine. What about you, Figments?
I have no idea, honestly, how to answer this question.
Fair enough.
So, I don't know.
Hello Games,
I don't know what
is
I
a
think.
good one. I'd also be trying to poach Housemarque from out under Sony.
I don't think
that's
also
going to happen,
idea...
though, because is it Housemarque or Housemarque?
Housemarque.
Housemarque? I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen.
For who?
For Housemarque?
For who, though? As in, what's not going to happen? Microsoft's not going to acquire them. I'd say I'd like them to acquire them.
I know, but I don't think it's going to be that good. No. I don't think it's going to... Yeah. I feel like the point of this question would be likeliest, wouldn't it? Likeliest one that you'd like?
No. He just said, which one do you think have the potential to be really huge and come out with great games if Microsoft were to acquire them? That's all.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I think Housemarque is another one. But I mean, let's be honest, Returnal, I reckon Returnal is their audition for acquisition by Sony.
Well,
if you think about everything that Housemarque makes, they make twin-stick arcade games. They publicly said, we're really upset about the fact that we can't really make these twin-stick arcade games anymore. And that was the cry for acquisition back then. And then all of a sudden, they're making this very Recore-looking, third-person, over-the-shoulder, narrative-driven game.
Is it really narrative-driven, or like it doesn't strike me?
It's got a time loop element.
I'm not saying it won't be narrative. I'm just saying I don't think it's going to be narrative-driven like Spider-Man is or God of War is.
No,
It definitely seems
level.
more. It definitely seems more of the Hades variety of like Rogue, where the storytelling takes place in between the loops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because they probably don't have the studio size to warrant something on the level of Sony's normal stuff. But it's quite clear the departure from what they normally do to what this is.
I kinda, you know, when I saw the trailer at the PlayStation 5 reveal, I was like, oh, they're doing a more cinematic game. That's interesting. You know, normally they're known for twin stick shooters. And then when I saw the gameplay clip at the Game Awards, I was like, oh, it's a twin stick shooter. Okay, you tricked me. You know, I was like, oh, all right, fine, that's cool. It's your bread and butter. But did anyone else feel that weird jarring?
Hold on, a twin stick shooter.
It effectively is, man. You like you just said, it's over the shoulder, but it is, you know, the waves of enemies and shooting them all and the patterns and stuff all coming out. Yeah, it's effectively just in a different camera angle as far as I'm concerned. It's still feeding off of.
To me, it looked
genre.
like Recore and I say that in a flattering way because I loved Recore. To me, it looked a lot very, very Recore vibes when I saw that. But I still think that is their audition for acquisition by Sony. I reckon Sony has gone to them and say, make something more like what we make, and if it does well, welcome to the family. If it don't do that well, keep doing your own thing.
Yeah, maybe.
Again, please, that's not
Too late.
That's not inside information. Please, that's just a guess. I'm just looking at everything on face value, and that's just what I think. That's all. That's all I'm saying. But Housemarque I would love, because I love their twin stick shooters. And to me, that fits so well into Game Pass. Stuff like Dead Nation, Super Stardust, Resogun, all that sort of stuff would be beautiful for Game Pass.
Yeah.
I reckon.
Fair.
Next question.
Yeah.
MDHX on Twitter. Was this Perfect Dark trailer / teaser the same one that was supposed to be shown on the Xbox showcase back in July, or is it a different one? Or perhaps that rumor was a hoax? This is an interesting question because on our podcast, I don't know if you remember, Sick, but on our podcast, remember how I got a DM while we were recording saying, quick, the Initiatives game's not going to be at the showcase.
Yeah.
So originally I was told that Obsidian's new game, Fable, and the Initiative's new game were going to be at the Xbox showcase. And while we were recording, I said, I just got a DM right now that Initiative's game is not going to be at the Xbox showcase. And it turned out that Avowed was there, Fable was there, and Perfect Dark was not.
Yep.
By the way, that's also the same source that has told me twice about Elden Ring. So
take that as you will.
It's not. Yeah, Elden Ring's not the only thing they've told me about. So that turned out to be true. Initiative's game wasn't there, Fable was, and so was Avowed. So assuming that was accurate, then yeah, maybe, I don't know if it was the same teaser, but it could be that there was something that was going to be shown. Maybe just a logo teaser was going to be shown at the July show to say, hey, we're making Perfect Dark. I don't know if it was that specific trailer, but yeah, maybe. I don't know. I did hear that it was supposed to be shown at the July showcase originally.
I think the trailer was already done by the July showcase, and that's why I think people might have seen it and thought it was coming. But I think clearly the stuff with the developers was probably filmed recently, and it definitely wasn't filmed in the style that the Xbox Game Showcase was. Because if you remember, when they actually had developers talk about the games, it wasn't in the style that the Initiative just did, right? So I kind of feel like the trailer was done. Maybe there was some consideration of putting it in the Game Showcase. They didn't for whatever reason, and they targeted the Game Awards, and they got Drew Murray and Daryl Gallagher and the other people together to film kind of the intro, and then boom, handed it to Jeff Keighley. That's why I kind of think happened.
Maybe that makes sense.
6 muted, by the way.
I was just agreeing with you, Rand, profusely, but thank you.
Yeah. Another question from Korea_Jose D. Should Perfect Dark I assume he's meant to say, should Perfect Dark have been a third-person game? That's my question, because in my opinion, no, because it looks to honour the original Perfect Dark, it being first-person and all that. I've said I personally wish it was third-person, just because I just think that it would have been cool to have a Splinter Cell-like, Perfect Dark game that's third-person, and you could see all the acrobatics that she was doing, and you could... I don't know. I would have liked it to have been third person, but I'm not upset that it's first person.
I think the fact that they've come out and said this is going to be a first person shooter, but not as you know it, and they've deliberately underlined that they're going to be trying very unique things to immerse you in that world. I think if they hadn't have said that, I probably would have been like, read the room, guys. Another FPS. But yeah, I agree. It is honouring what the game always was and is. I wouldn't have minded if it was third person, but I wouldn't have complained. But it would have been, if it had been third person, I think it would have been fair to say that this would be Microsoft chasing that Sony crowd with the game. But they're not. They're listening to the developers who are going, yeah, no, we actually want to try and do something really new and different. Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm not upset that it's not third person.
Okay.
I'm not upset.
I'm not upset.
Rand, you prefer first or third?
Well, I'm kind of curious how stealth is going to play out in first person. Third person is usually better for that.
Yeah.
But if it's the game, if that's the style they wanted to go, first person, then then so be it.
Stealth
I don't know.
pretty well.
See.
Stealth works pretty well in Cyberpunk, to be fair. And Cyberpunk's all in first person. I think it helps a lot that the mini map that they gave you shows exactly where enemies are looking at all times.
Like Metal Gear Solid?
Does Metal Gear Solid do that? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Gives you the cones.
Metal Gear Solid shows the cone of vision.
Wait a minute. Which Metal Gear?
1, 2, 3.
I don't remember vision cones in 3. I don't remember vision cones.
Mate, look, 3 I probably shouldn't be so confident in, because I played 3 for like half an hour and didn't enjoy it, so stopped. But definitely in 1 and 2, you get the cone.
I didn't play 1 and 2. I played 3, and I remember 3 did not have vision cones. I don't think 5 had vision cones either.
Haven't played 5. 5.
Well, that cleared that right up.
Cyberpunk has vision cones.
Yeah,
I know. Cyberpunk has vision cones, and that'll be interesting. And you can hack cameras and stuff. I really like the stealth in Cyberpunk.
Keep going, Rand.
I mean, yeah. I guess it depends how it all plays out. Like, is the stealth? I would imagine if it's a stealth action game like we think it is, then the stealth would have to be really good in first person. Otherwise, you're jeopardizing the whole gameplay flow if you can't really judge what's going on.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, those guys know what they're doing. They're all incredibly talented developers, and they obviously pick first person for a reason. I don't think anybody would have been that upset if they chose third person.
No.
So they must think it works, and it works well. And maybe in combination with the movements, like you mentioned earlier, the merge that style, maybe it kind of lends itself to a unique gameplay experience.
Yeah, it would. I was just thinking that it would be really interesting, because here, on the one hand, you're talking about Mirror's Edge style parkour, where you're going to be vaulting over stuff and sliding under stuff, but then at the same time, you're also going to be stealth. So how will they handle the juxtaposition between that really fast, free-flowing movement, but then also having to slow right down for stealth? Interesting.
Well, you look at a game like Titanfall when it first released. It kind of revolutionized first-person movement, right? It's not hard to believe that we could have another moment like that where someone's really thought through.
I have to say, I feel really dumb, because we all talk about how Titanfall revolutionized first-person movement. Mirror's Edge came out in 2008.
Yeah.
And Mirror's Edge had wall running. But Mirror's Edge had sliding.
But it wasn't a shooter. It was effectively...
It wasn't a shooter. But
but you could shoot people in it.
There
and it
was
made by
shooting in it. You could literally
it was
disarm
made
people
by
and
a shooter company.
DICE. That's right.
Yeah.
Like, it was.
And the shooting was the worst
silly 'cause
part
I
of
love
the game.
Mirror's Edge. Yeah, I know the focus wasn't on shooting, and the reviews said the shooting wasn't very good. I mean, I thought it was fine. You could disarm people, and I just feel silly that we talk about Titanfall doing that when Mirror's Edge did it 6 years earlier.
Because it felt better in Titanfall. It felt less clunky.
Yeah, that's true too.
And
That's
more...
true too. It did feel a bit better in Titanfall.
Yeah.
Or a lot better.
What we got next?
Last question on Twitter by Hydroronics. What's next for Xbox Studios acquisitions? Have you guys heard anything? Are they going for any specific types of
Every single podcast episode, there's always one. We don't know. We don't know anything.
Can we...
Look, all we said was that I said I've been told that they've got at least one, and we have heard there's two.
Yeah.
We haven't been told names.
To be fair, one of them could have been the was it the GG? Come on,
Smash GG.
Yeah, could have been them. We don't know. We're not told. That's an acquisition, folks.
That wasn't an Xbox acquisition.
It wasn't. It was an MSN acquisition.
It was an
for
MSN acquisition,
I know.
which is so weird.
I'm just saying, we don't know. We hear the word acquisition. We're not told specifically this studio and at this time frame and when it's going to be revealed.
Yeah, maybe while I've got Rand on, I'll say this. When I don't know exactly how Rand works with this stuff, but when I'm told something, I am very OCD about saying to the people that tell me stuff, what can I and can't I say? What do I have to sit on? What do I have to... Like, I showed Rand a DM that I was sent about Perfect Dark, and that DM was from July, and I've been sitting on it for 5 months and didn't say anything because I was told not to. So if I've said something, it's because that's what I was told I am allowed to say. If it turns out wrong, well, what can I do? I can't help that. It turns out wrong, like Elden Ring. Like, it's not this thing where we make up whatever or add a little bit of salsa to it to spice it up or whatever the case may be. Again, I don't know exactly how Rand does it, but I only say what I am told and what I am allowed to say. So all I got told was there is one studio acquisition with Microsoft. I wasn't told a name, wasn't told anything, just that they have one. And that's it.
I mean, people will tell me, like, don't repeat this, don't tell anybody if it's really sensitive information. And obviously I won't say anything. But then sometimes it's more like, hey, maybe this is what's going on, and then you hear from somebody else. So I don't directly always repeat word for word what's said. It really just depends on the person who's telling me stuff. Like, I felt comfortable enough to say Horizon Zero Dawn was coming to PC back when nobody believed it.
Hey, that was both of us, buddy.
Yeah, because I literally had 8 different people telling me it was coming to Horizon Zero Dawn, that was coming to PC. So it was just like, and none of them were like, don't repeat this.
Yeah.
It seemed like just an open secret in the video game industry that Sony was about to do it. Which I find funny that the fanboys were like, they would never.
Never.
Are you sure about that?
That was vicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as acquisitions go, I wouldn't expect any until the Bethesda deal closed. I think Microsoft is very much focused on getting that deal done, signed, sealed, delivered. I mean, I'm confident they will make more acquisitions. I mean, Phil's publicly said multiple times they're always looking. They need to feed the beast of Game Pass. The CEO has said they'll continue to expand, in inorganic ways wherever it makes sense. And I think, them integrating Obsidian and Ninja Theory and Compulsion and all those studios were a test to see if they could probably integrate something as big as Bethesda. And once maybe Phil and Matt felt they were comfortable enough integrating all those different studios, that they could go out and then integrate something as large as Bethesda. And now they know how it works, and they can start maybe closing, because they're talk all the time to all these different studios, and things fall apart for whatever reasons. But I would expect Microsoft to make start kind of working towards the acquisitions after the Bethesda stuff. I don't expect them to announce anything before then.
Yeah, I think
buy Bungie.
Let's not talk about the Bungie thing.
They already are,
Bungie.
aren't they? We already confirmed that they are.
Seriously, let's never bring that up again. That was a harsh lesson.
Yeah, but I mean, and back to what we were saying, like that's the thing. The stuff we get told is there's no rules around it.
I've got a question for you, Rand. Right, and it's more a hypothetical, right? Do you remember when the Series S revealed and Brad Sams basically just leaked it all?
Of course.
Right?
How could I forget?
Now, I don't know if I'm reading between the lines, but when I got a Series S review kit and you got your Series X review kit and we all got enrolled into that program, it was all super cool. I don't remember seeing any advanced content prior to the general rollout for the review period 2 weeks before. I didn't remember seeing any videos from Brad Sams talking about the hardware. Now, I presume that may have been you know what, Brad? Fuck you. From Microsoft for a minute there, right? But obviously, they're professionals and they've got a scoop's a scoop. He's a journalist, whatever the case may be. But, from your perspective, if that came across your desk, if you snuck your way into a Microsoft server and found that image, would you sit on it or would you leak it?
Oh, I would totally sit on it. I'm not in the game of releasing Microsoft's. I know too many people at Microsoft who would just never
really
talk to me ever again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not. I've known things that I've sat on just because I'm not. Like I could have made videos about a whole bunch of stuff that I knew that I'm not going to. That's not the type of person I am.
Yeah.
You're not in the business of pissing people off. Yeah.
Yeah. Like and your presumption about Brad is right. I think he got blacklisted. I don't think you'll ever see him receive anything from Microsoft for a review product ever again. I think he's completely shut out.
Yeah, because
and
that was like a week away. Like you've just ruined, like in a pandemic, you've just ruined a bunch of people's really
hard work. It was days, wasn't it?
Yeah,
like literally a couple of days.
Well, there was the media thing that was going to be happening that week where they would invite people and but like. Was it really worth the web traffic and the YouTube views and all that stuff just to
long term? No.
Exactly. That's why I would totally sit on it. I would if that information came to me, I would probably actually
ping them and
email
say, hey.
my contacts at Microsoft. Yeah. I would probably DM Phil and being like, listen, or I'd get a hold of Phil and talk to him, being like, I was sent this, and if I have this, then I'm sure someone else does.
Yeah,
and you probably should look for something. But like, no, I would not leak that whatsoever.
Yeah, it's interesting, like it's a kind of unique position, right? Because at the end of the day, none of us are journalists, right? We're not out to capture someone a lie and post it and get a headline and get clicks, like. It's a weird world, and when I saw that happen, I mean, I thought the marketing team at Microsoft did a phenomenal job of responding to it with humor and grace, right? I was like, fair. It was probably the best marketing moment of the year, and I think they did win, despite our grievances sometimes with the Xbox marketing team. They won marketing team of the year, an award earlier this week. But like much like you said, Rand, like I've been sitting on some stuff for like over a year that I am just not going to talk about.
Yeah,
I look forward to talking about it, but I can't talk about it yet.
And that's what happens, and sometimes to our own detriment.
Yeah, I'd love. I'd love to.
Like sometimes you sit on stuff so long that it actually ends up getting announced before you get to say anything.
Yeah.
Because fun fact, I got told almost exactly a year ago that a new Little Big Planet game was coming, and I had to sit on it. And I sat on it, and I sat on it, and I sat on it, and I kept asking, hey, can I say something? Nope. Sackboy Adventures came along eventually.
Yeah.
And that's
I remember you telling me about that at Christmas last year.
And if I'm told don't say anything, then I'm not going to say anything. It doesn't, like, that's just... Yep. So if you've ever seen me say something, it's because I've been told you can say something now. And that's You'd like to think most of us will do it that way, and not like how Brad did it.
Yeah.
Which was just, this is huge. Get it out there.
Yeah, I just thought it was an interesting question, man. So thank you for tackling that one. It's always an interesting scenario, and I wonder if Brad seriously regrets his 5 minutes of fame. I don't know.
Yeah, but he's still got a massive following now as a result, doesn't he?
The funny thing is, it's like he released a video about it, and then I think one of my buddies' dealer his video ended up getting more views than Brad's, and his website went down, so all the traffic went to Windows Central for the announcement, because they covered the announcement. Obviously, here's Brad Sams, known Microsoft leaker, with the price of the Series S. I think it was more. Here's what I think it was. It wasn't that he leaked the price, because that's what we had speculated for a year that it was.
Yeah.
It's because he leaked the marketing images of what the console looked like, right? So it gave it an aura of this is legit. Like, I think that next day or maybe that night, Jez leaked the price of the Series X.
Yeah.
But he didn't release also marketing stuff that was essentially stolen from a Microsoft server. And I think that's the bigger issue, is like they look at it as theft. Like, you stole this from us. If he had just been like, I've seen things and the Series S is getting revealed soon and it's $299, I know this for a fact, and didn't show the console, I think it probably would have played out differently.
Yeah.
You're probably right.
But this is crazy. It's been a crazy year. It's hard to believe that was earlier this year, but it was. I think that's it.
That was Twitter.
So it's just the forum now, right?
Yes.
We're rocking at 2.5 hours now, so do you want to cherry pick a bit?
I'm just trying to see. Yeah. There's not too much there.
Okay.
Dio Game asks, my question is whether we should expect to see any titles beyond Deathloop and Ghostwire from ZeniMax in 2021. Maybe Starfield?
Yeah.
That's pretty easy to answer. Like
release in 2021?
Yeah, I think we're going to see some stuff.
Expect to see any. He doesn't say release, just see.
See, I expect them to reveal Starfield and Wolfenstein 3.
Yeah.
Maybe even Arcane's next game. This year. So.
Well, hold on. Deathloop is Arcane, isn't it?
There's 2 studios.
Yeah, but they have 2 studios. There's the other one.
Sorry. Okay.
Doing something new, which has been rumored to either be Prey 2 or Dishonored 3. So.
Okay. Okay, cool. So that's it. That's nice and quick. Apache. Actually, I got a couple of questions. Now, with many announced Xbox games, what are you looking forward to the most and why? I mean, we kind of covered that. Did we kind of cover that?
2-word it, Halo Infinite for me. I'm still I'm jazzed to play
Perfect Dark or Halo Infinite. For me, a bunch of them, maybe all of them I can't wait for, yet it is probably the most boring answer. I absolutely cannot wait for Halo.
I got you.
Staten has made a comment. Halo works best in big environments, not in narrow corridors. That's why many levels in Halo CE still hold up, not the library. If they bring this magic back combined with awesome multiplayer, this will be the event of the year. Xbox aside, what other game do you look forward to? In brackets, me, Breath of the Wild 2, Nier Replicant, and many more. I'm more confident in Xbox Game Studio than ever, with Perfect Dark being first person. I think in the future, Xbox will be a powerhouse for first person shooters, immersive sims, and RPGs. That seems pretty logical.
Yep.
It makes the gaming sphere more exciting than ever. Sony will continue to build on its strength. This has the potential to be the best generation of games ever. Also, Rand should play Breath of the Wild. Yes, you should, Rand. XboxEra, Xbox 2, best crossover. We're all looking forward to Halo, Perfect Dark. Probably my main 2.
Yeah, can I shout out one game really quickly that I regret that I didn't mention when we were talking about the Game Awards, and I think it deserves a moment to shine. It Takes Two from Hazelight.
That looked really cool.
Totally bonkers, wonderfully heartfelt. It looks like a gamer's game, and I cannot wait to play that. It looks cool. It looks phenomenal. That is probably up there on my list of I'm really looking forward to that, because if you think about, and this comes into that conversation we were talking last week about games that focus on using the medium as a way to tell story. When brothers tell two sons with the sticks and so on. This is from that same studio, right? I played A Way Out. I really enjoyed that. That was an amazing kind of moment with my buddy. This is going to be one I'm going to try and get the wife to sit down and play because it's about fixing a broken relationship.
Yeah.
I love you, darling.
And Rand, you should play Breath of the Wild.
I mean, I've been playing...
Have you not played it?
Well, no, I haven't. I don't really play much on my Switch, but I've been playing Immortals Phoenix Rising, what people say has stolen
God, I want that game.
A Breath of the Wild, and I really like that game. So
that is like that game looks. I'm sorry, I've said.
Put that down. Put that, John. John,
it
put that
looks
down.
so up my alley. Like it literally looks like Zelda meets OG God of War.
Yeah,
it's a very It's. Have you not played it yet?
No, I'm waiting for.
I was just winding Nick up on camera because we reached out to Ubisoft and that for some reason, why are you sending me physical copies, Ubisoft?
I know, I can't believe that.
It's 2020.
Didn't you tell them that your reviewer is in Australia and a code would be easier?
Well, this is the thing. They just said, "Oh, we haven't got digital codes anymore," and I'm like. Their system is really strange, man. I'm not a big fan of how they. It's not their fault. Like the people I've actually spoken to have been super helpful, considering we're small and we get that. But the platform that they use to request review code is not fun to use. But yeah.
But how are they? How is
anyone
anyone still sending out discs in 2020?
It's a strange.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
That's just. Anyway. Next one, Big Z. Hi all. First of all, I would like to mention that it is great that Rand has come on the show. Yes, it is. Rand and I do like each other. We do.
Yeah, we don't hate each other.
We don't.
In fact, Nick was like, "Should we play up the rivalry on the show?" And so I just like, no.
I said to Rand, Rand, no matter what you hear me say to you, I love you.
Yeah.
It's
interesting though,
anything here.
because in the background I was totally betraying Nick and like messaging around like, do you want me to like halfway through, because I'm running the recording session, I can just swap his name out and make it say Mediocre Ed, and then to Ed I was like, do you want me to just put the tomato gif in his place of his camera, you know, like this could all be happening right now, guys. You don't know until you see it on YouTube tomorrow.
I want the audience to know that these gentlemen are decades older than me, and they're acting like 5-year-olds.
Yeah, you gotta have some fun in life.
Decades, huh?
Decades, yeah.
Wait, are you older than me, Nick? I think you're older than me.
Oh, I am older than everyone.
Yeah.
You're 40.
I am older than everyone.
40.
Although I will say, I felt very... it felt nice. Someone on the Game On Daily podcast YouTube comments said, "What? Nick's 40? He looks like he's in his 20s." I was like, "Oh, that's so nice."
It was me on an alt account just to mess with your mind and make you feel good, and now I'm taking that comment away. Sorry, bro.
Thanks, mate. I do look very young and I'm very attractive. Thank you. Now,
Yeah, sure. Said no one except Nick over here
and his wife.
And he says, "My question for this week is, in light of Xbox receiving a marketing award, do you think Xbox's marketing has improved over the past year or so? If not, what are the things you would like them to improve going forward, or just improve in general? Finally, is From Software just trolling Shpeshal Ed at this point?" Yes, they are.
Go on, let Rand should answer.
They 100% pulled Elden Ring because I said something.
What do you reckon, Rand? What can they do?
Their marketing has improved. I don't think the issue has really been with Microsoft's marketing. It's been more with their messaging. And like we all said back with the May showcase, that they hyped it up like it was going to be like this. It was almost E3 levels of amazing, and it was not. I am infamous for tempering expectations, and it looks like Aaron learned, and he really tried to dial down the expectations for the Game Awards, and it was good because the Game Awards actually took people by surprise because no one was expecting anything. That is how they should do it going forward. I'm hoping they've learned their lesson to stop hyping up stuff that is not worth hyping up, like inside Xboxes that are boring as and don't do anything good, and just Microsoft has always had a problem with not understanding what actually gets people hyped. I'm hoping now that they're starting to learn that lesson. Hopefully. Anyone else?
So I'll just say I think their marketing around the Series X was phenomenal. Like leading from the start of the VGAs to the launch of the console. I thought it was all just fantastic. I'm not particularly a fan of the brand marketing they're doing now with like, hey, Xbox hooked me up to a dream machine and these are the images that I see.
Yeah.
I don't think that works very well.
I don't get it.
But I would get it, power your dreams. What I want them to focus more on, and I will say like the team that does the Game Pass stuff ads is great as well, is I think they do need to improve on their marketing of games. They don't do a very good job, in my opinion, when it comes to games marketing.
Yes.
They're very good at platform marketing, brand marketing, and stuff. But like when it comes to games marketing, I don't think they're there yet.
What's an
I
example,
still think.
though?
I don't think like when I look at how Sony markets some of their prestige titles, they just do it whether it's like a state of play, where it's like here's Demon Souls running for 20 minutes, or here's Ghost of Tsushima plus like the trailers they cut where they show off like here's all the games coming. Like they did a recent one where here's all the new and upcoming games for PlayStation 5. Like I think Sony is like the leader when it comes to games marketing and getting people excited about their product. And I feel Xbox hasn't really hit that level where they're very good at marketing their games in the same way that Sony is. At least that's just my opinion.
But does that go back to the content problem, though?
Sure, it does go back to the content problem.
Does that go back to the fact that their games haven't been at that level? And that's why, like we said earlier, they thought Halo Infinite was fit to show. Like,
no, I mean, they did good marketing lead up for Halo, right? Like the CGI trailer was good.
Yeah.
All that stuff was good, but like I think the showing of Halo in that format wasn't good. And I don't know if that's on the marketing team or on 343, but like
that's on 343 for sure. That's on 343.
Right. I just kind of like look at it like they're good at marketing the platform and they're not good at marketing individual games. When I look at PlayStation and when I look at Nintendo, they're both really good at doing both. Maybe it's because they have the content.
That's right.
Where they can throw a hype trailer in there and like you get really excited about all the games coming for these platforms. But then Xbox rarely ever does that. And that could be because all they have is CGI trailers to work with because that's all the studios have delivered them. Hopefully, like they need to work on that because, as we know, 23 studios, pretty much all going to be putting out content starting 2022-ish. So it's something that they need to really start switching gears on because you can only market the world's most powerful console, which it really isn't right now, for so long before you need to then start marketing something else.
Yeah.
Right.
I think as well, some of their tone that they hit with marketing. It's just weird. Like the first time, and I think I said this episode before that. I'm not sure if you'd agree with this, Rand, and everybody else, but when you see a Sony game presented at E3 or whatever for the first time, it's always very somber. Sony Entertainment presents in the white font. Serious intro to the game. When Microsoft show off Gears, it's like, here's a hip hop track, and it's just like. And big headline banners coming at you, more enemies, and it just feels like being marketed to as an adult, like a 15-year-old would. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know if that comes across right, but it's really it's the tone that they set. Like I think I agree with you, Rand. The Game Pass Twitter account is fantastic. The Game Pass ads are hilarious. The memes. When they started doing TikTok stuff was very, very funny, like very self-aware, self-deprecating when they were going through the folder and pictures of fridges and speakers and Phil holding the bazooka and all that kind of stuff. Great. You've hit your target demographic of the people that pay attention to that stuff that are online talking about you. But from a wider perspective, the whole bombastic attitude-driven marketing cycle for some of their stuff is just, it just completely bounces off me. I just find it grates. I want to see them, if games are art and if they love games, like let the games speak for themselves. Exactly as you said. Make Inside Xbox. Here's this title that's coming out next week. We're going to do a 20-minute demo, and that's all we're going to do. And it's just going to be gameplay focused with no stupid music and a silly trailer and loads of words popping up at you to deliver the plot that doesn't exist. Just let the games speak for themselves a bit more. That would be my take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
They do. The games need to be there and they need to be good.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier to market a game when a game looks and is great.
Well, Gears 5.
That's the issue.
The most recent example, right? Game looked and was. I don't care whether you like Gears or not. It was a great game. Marketed terribly.
Yeah, but that's right, and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the base has to be a good-looking game that looks good, and then it's a lot easier to market it. So if the game does look good and you still get the marketing horribly wrong, well, then you've got other problems. Okay, the last from the forum. Liam S. Hi, guys. I'll keep it short this week. Yes, because Liam asked 73 questions last week. So only 2 this time. Studio Wildcard, the makers of Ark Survival Evolved, are making Ark 2 exclusively for Xbox PC, dropping PlayStation and Switch. They have been... Do we know that, though? Do we know that Ark 2 is a 100% exclusive and not just timed?
I would imagine it's timed.
Launching exclusively. That's the phrasing used, so you can take that as timed.
Okay, so it's timed. They have Vin Diesel as the face of Ark 2, and the animated series has Russell Crowe, David Tennant, among others attached. Have you heard anything about Microsoft picking them up? Xbox would finally have an exclusive Sad Dad third-person game. Seems a lot for a small 60-person studio. Aaron Greenberg said they were working closely with them. That's the first question. I have heard nothing about that studio being picked up at all.
Same.
I don't know. Anyone else heard anything? I haven't heard anything about them. I've never seen their name mentioned when it comes to acquisitions. I haven't
Not a sausage.
heard anything about them.
I know that their game, despite how I feel about it, which is I played it for 10 hours, found it to be an unoptimized mess, and then found out that I was really annoyed that you could be killed while you were offline in a server.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know whether that's changed. This was way back when it first launched, and I was just like, never touching that again. Just wasted my time. You're back to 0, and you can't even do anything about it unless you build some sort of super cool base. And even then, people can just grind their way in while you're asleep and logged off the game. Madness. So I never went back and touched it, but they've kept it updated. They've added a bunch to it. It still performs horribly, but it's very, very popular because dinosaurs are cool.
So is it a steady 30 on Series X?
No. I don't think so. I think they tried to launch a 60 FPS mode, if you can call it that. But as I said, I haven't touched it in a long, long time. I've certainly heard nothing that would indicate Microsoft have any interest with them. But then they probably know that it is a very popular game, despite the fact that it might not be popular with the hardcore. So, yeah.
One of the most popular games on Xbox is Roblox, and nobody ever talks about that, right?
Exactly.
Oh God, I know all about Roblox.
Yeah, my kid plays Roblox, although he's gone off it quite a bit.
My kids play it, and Rec Room as well.
Rec Room's out on Xbox now.
Yeah, I just got shown Rec Room very recently, and showed it to my daughter, and she's jumped in, and she's enjoying it.
Have you played it on VR? You've got an Oculus Quest now, right? It's a VR game.
No, I haven't. Yeah, that's right. It's Oculus, and it's funnily enough, it's on PlayStation, but not on Switch, which kind of surprises me. But then Roblox isn't on Switch either, which also surprises me.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rec Room it's kind of like a slightly more polished version of Roblox.
Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah. I guess you could say that.
Because people can make their own games and
they can do their own thing.
It's a very similar thing. Okay, second question and last question. Perfect Dark seems like its gameplay is going to be a cross between Mirror's Edge and Hitman. Sounds awesome. When David Gallagher announced the initiative at E3, he said he was joining Xbox's senior leadership team. What does that actually mean? Is he the one spearheading the leaving studios. I assume he means leading studios to do their own thing strategy. Love the show and always look forward to it. Same goes for you, Rand. Thanks, guys. I don't know. Did David? I thought David Gallagher was just
from an organisational perspective, every studio head, so Tim Schafer, Bonnie Ross, David Gallagher, blah 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 blah. They're all part of the ELT, Executive Leadership Team, or Senior Leadership Team, SLT. It's pretty much how it works in organisations. Their management, they report into Matt Booty. Matt Booty reports into Phil. That's it's just organisational. It's nothing more than that.
Okay, cool.
Bit of a downer question to end on, really. It's boring organisational stuff. The end.
Well, I mean, there are a couple of questions in the Discord if you'd like me to cover those.
Oh God, no, we've had enough. It's nearly 3-hour podcast. I know it was going to be a long one because we had Rand on, but and there was a lot to talk about. But no, those Discord people, they can remain in the darkness for now. Do you want to know something super nerdy and super cool that I'm doing for my little boy for Christmas? Just off a random tangent. We're talking about Roblox and Minecraft, and Minecraft obviously was in the news recently as being the most watched game on YouTube. Yes, it is. My son is responsible for several billion of those hours. He absolutely adores Minecraft and watching Minecraft videos, and I was blown away today. Absolutely blown away. I had a lot of DIY to do. I'm decorating his room in time for Christmas. So he was playing his Switch, and he knocks on the door because I'm keeping him out of his room. He's moved into his sister's room while I'm renovating his room, right? So he's completely cut off, and he's not allowed in to see what I'm doing. And I come out, and he goes, "Dad, I really want to show you this. I've built the biggest roller coaster in the world." And my boy has been watching guides on YouTube. He's only 6, and he's figured out how to do all this stuff by listening and learning, which I'm really proud of. And he's built this epic roller coaster that takes him across all the different biomes in his little creative world in Minecraft. He's worked out how the batteries worked. He's done like jump, all sorts of crazy stuff. And the pride in him showing me this. And I was equally proud as a dad to watch my little boy like show me all this stuff. Little does he know that I just spent about £200 with a printing company to make custom Minecraft wallpaper. I took a Minecraft block and very kindly Pre-Drag, our art lead, helped me up-res it to the appropriate resolutions for a printing company. And I've got custom Minecraft wallpaper that is turning his room into like a Minecraft-themed room, which I'm quite excited about. So I thought I'd share that little tidbit. But yeah, kids and Minecraft, man, they love that stuff. It's pretty cool.
No, that's good.
Yeah, it should look cool.
That's really
nifty
cool.
Room. Nifty room. I'm kind of jealous. It'd be better than this dump that I'm in right now. Well, 3 hours, Rand. How you feeling? How was your time on the XboxEra podcast? Did you enjoy it? Never again.
Oh, it was great.
It was great.
You're gonna have some work cut off you on the audio version because at some point, when I was watching this, it stopped recording, and I started it up as fast as I can. So
you too?
Yeah. Good luck. I mean, I know when it cut out, it was like 2 hours and 12 minutes, and then I started it up a few seconds later. So you're gonna have to do some finagling to get the audio to line up.
Yeah, I even posted my timestamps for when mine cut out. A couple seconds.
I would argue that it's you people with your convoluted setups. Here me and Ed are with our reliable snowballs that never cut out and never go wrong.
No, it was just Premiere just stopped recording. I didn't do anything.
It's happened to us
Bloody
the best of
Adobe.
times, man. There's so many times where we've been like, we thought we'd done everything perfectly, and then we go to build it, and like someone's audio just didn't come through at all. And it's like, I think the worst one we had was Charisma Williams came on. And she said, yeah, I can do Audacity, no problem, I'll record it in the background. What she neglected to mention, and we didn't think of asking when we saw her on camera, she wasn't wearing headphones. So she was recording her speech while our audio was coming through her speakers of her laptop. So what we got was just this mishmash of noise of the entire podcast as her audio file. It was unusable. So you live and learn. But I'll figure it out, it's fine. But yeah, it's been good. It's been great.
Yeah.
Really, really appreciate you coming on, Rand. Always a big fan of
thanks
everything
heaps,
you
mate.
do.
Yeah.
And
I was thinking it was going to be like 9 o'clock because really later than what it is because you guys are all over the place in terms of where you're at. So 4 o'clock for me was Very nice.
Well, it's halfway
And now
in
I
the
still
morning for me.
Yeah, now I still get to go play some video games, So
Yeah. It all works out rather well. Well, I'm sure
And
we'll
John,
have you on
and John
again.
gets to go to sleep.
I do get to go to sleep, and my kids will wake me up in about 5 hours' time. So, living the dream, guys. Living the dream. That dad dream.
12:30 in the middle of the day here. I'm good.
But the hilarity thing is, I was sitting there and I was about to say, anyone on XboxEra, if you're not subscribed to Randall Thor, please go and make sure you click that button. But I would imagine that all 3,000 of our subscribers already are, because you're one of the biggest names.
There's
in
probably
Xbox.
a little bit of overlap there.
Just a smidge.
Probably a little bit of overlap.
But equally, if the 80,000 or so subscribers of Randall Thor want to come and click on our channel, we'll take it.
Throw some our way.
We're not at 80. We're not at 80,000 just yet. Maybe sometime next year. But yeah,
getting close. But you've seen
What
phenomenal
are you
success.
at? You're right up there, though.
Yeah.
I think I hit 72,000 a couple maybe last week. So
Yeah, round it up.
Yeah, round it up to the nearest 10.
So round up to 80. Don't worry about it.
I think, Rand, from a personal perspective, I think your videos are great. They're never too clickbaity. They're never full of crap. So keep on trucking and doing what you're doing, man. It's appreciated.
Thank you.
And
I try my best, man. I try my best.
It's good stuff. So on that note, we will bid all of our listeners a firm and fond farewell. As always, if you're new to this podcast and you've come and tuned in because Rand's here, I don't blame you. He's quite the character, but feel free to give us a like and subscribe. Leave us a comment in the YouTube comment section below if you enjoyed what you heard, if you have any questions. And if you really want to support us, feel free to check out our Patreon, and obviously head to www.xboxera.com, as our forums are there and all our news and written reviews, etc., etc. So with that, I think we will all say a fond farewell. So I'll catch you later.
Ciao for now.
See you, everybody.
Over and out.